I'm recording as well.
Alright. What are we doing? 3, 2, 1, clap.
Yep, get the clap, mate.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Resurrected Urban Energy Podcast. I'm David. He's Alex. I think it's time to get into this. Do you want to tell the little listeners what we're doing here? Because we were meant to be back. Actually, we'll come to that. How are you doing, Alex? I deliberately asked what we're doing because I was like, I'll just save it for the podcast. Better to, if we're going to chat, we may as well make content out of it.
I thought you were just about to say, I deliberately didn't ask you how you were because I know you'll fucking go on for ages and I want to get down to business. But I see what you mean. Yes, I'm all right. The house is now chickenpox free. The kid can be sent out again into the wild.
Cassie had chickenpox.
Oh, I've not told you that? Oh, okay, yeah, no, she did. Been and gone. She was able to leave again. She must have been in the house for like 2 weeks, which to her, if you take 2 weeks, well, that's probably at least the COVID pandemic for her already, right? 3 and a bit years, 2 weeks stuck in the house. It's probably about the same as us.
She's like, no!
Relative. Yeah. No, she took it like an absolute champ.
Good.
The whole way through. Legendary behaviour.
Both you and Rach have had the old pox.
No.
Oh.
No, of course I have. Of course I have. Some of my family were being a bit weird. Like, my parents being like, I'm not sure if we should come and look after her in case we can somehow give it to your niece. Like, you can't unless you scratch the chicken pox off my daughter and get them under your fingernails and rub them in the eyes of your other granddaughter. You cannot transfer it because you can't catch it to do that.
I feel like growing up, that was a thing. It's like when it's like one mother.
Chicken pox parties. Yeah, just rub it on your other fucking kid. Yeah,
it's like a whiff that some kid in the year had chicken pox. Everybody was like piling around to their house to try and get chicken pox.
Yeah, that's like nature's vaccine, I guess, isn't it? Just rubbing your kid on someone else's kid.
I feel like that's the only. Is it because you can only? Is it once or twice you can get it? I feel like maybe it's because you've got a limit on how many times you generally get it. But I feel like I can't think of any other illnesses that people will go and rub their kids off each other on.
No, I don't. There must be none. I think it's just the old chickenpox parties. Because you would be incredibly unlucky to get it twice. And shingles is like, another version of it, but you don't get that from like re-catching it. It's just like you just shit out of luck and your body just decides to reactivate the chickenpox virus and give you the sore version for adults.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun. I've heard shingles.
A lot of people have said to me that they've got it in their 20s, which is mental. Like, I had shingles in my 20s. Like, you what? Yeah, you poor bastard.
I'm going to opt out of getting the old shingles. So yeah, she was good.
She was really good. Didn't moan, didn't really scratch that much.
Probably more.
What an absolute trooper. Moaned less than I do on a common cold, for sure. Absolutely. The only thing she really moaned about was that she wanted loads of Calpol all the time. And she says that the Nurofen is yucky and rubbish, but we don't have to give her that anyway. So she also enjoyed watching me play some Mario Galaxy 2. She found that fucking hilarious.
Excellent.
Which I don't even know if we're going to pod about now. We need to figure out if we do that or Metroidvania, and then we could maybe just talk about Mario Galaxy 2 in our genre wars thing, leaving the playing of it easy, loosey-goosey.
I mean, it's probably because it's taken me a while to buy all the things I needed to buy for it.
Yeah. Well, for them to arrive anyway.
Yeah, I am keen to play it, but yeah, if we run out of time, we run out of time. We'll see what we're. Yeah,
it depends what we want to prioritize, really. That or the Metroidvania in May, I guess.
Yeah,
that decision is yours. But I think we could push. Yeah, I know we could push Galaxy 2. I think into the genre wars.
We've been so
and then just play it for fun. You've just been a busy boy, mate. You've got a real grown-up job, and I've got a kid, and that's what's happened. I've had job interviews. You've had shit. We were all big, weren't we? Like, we're going to change what podcast kinds we do, and we'll get loads more out for you, lads. And life just doesn't work out that way. Just is what it is.
But we're still here, fighting away. When
we can. We're here to have a big old fucking
Alex,
moan.
to be fair, so you can thank him for the podcast in your ear holes.
Unless you don't like it, and then get fucked. I'm not apologising. which is basically the whole premise of this episode.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, if it's a disappointment, I'll put it in S tier anyway. But more on that in a second. How are you doing?
I'm good. I am enjoying this hot weather. Very sweaty, but to be honest, I am doing a bit of a 180. I used to be on the old Alex side of the fence where I hated.
Oh, don't abandon me.
Whereas, like, I feel like the older I get, the more I just want to be warm. I'm sick of having cold bones all the
time. Well, that's because you get the extreme of the latter and the mild version of the former. So you get the nice mild summers that I wish I could have, but the brutal winters that nobody really wants, not even me.
Yeah. And I don't think we do have any listeners, but if we've got any listeners that live on like the side of the world, like, I don't know, the parts of America or Canada that get like real winter. The problem with Scotland, it gets much colder in those areas, but the problem with Scotland is that it is wet and windy while it's cold. And that just wet wind just gets right inside you. It's awful.
Yeah, but I suppose it does prevent the type of shit that I saw in New York when I went there in one February, which was just having to wear like walking boots just to go into the street. Yeah, because it was so icy and snowy and freezing. So they can keep that.
Yeah, they can
in the Bronx.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm good. Apart from that, been enjoying some Expedition 33.
Oh yeah, what a fucking treat that is! What an absolute treat!
I've hit a bit of.
I'm glad you're still liking it.
I am.
Oh wait, hold on.
Well,
hold on.
No, I am, and I think I just hit a bit of a rut. I've encountered a few enemies that I was having a tough time with it, and I sort of turned it off like 2 nights ago because I died, and I was just like, I can't do this again. So, but no, I am still fully in it. It's a great game.
Which is a bit of a turnaround considering how easy you made the early parts of the game sound compared to how much I struggled with them. But at least the game has very, very considerate checkpointing we saved it before you had this fight, mate. Don't worry about it.
It does.
It's not Chrono Trigger.
If we make a series out of this, this podcast that you're about to explain, Expedition 33 is going to be my poster child example of why companies are lying to you when they tell you that games have to cost £80. Because that cost 50 quid and it was a development team of what, 45 people? Like, if you can cut your cloth accordingly, you do not have to have these spiraling budgets. I'm just not having it as an argument. Just not taking it.
You can definitely bring this up in our final point of today. So keep that under your hat.
But yeah, it's a lovely game. I'm finding that am I surprised about how heavily engaged with the story I am? I think I am somewhat, given that it is weird. Like, it is such a heavy story, and it starts off like, I don't know, like, obviously there's like a sort of supernatural, fantastical premise to the story, but it seems largely grounded within its own reality. And then you meet this guy who's like an inflatable balloon who's can fly, he's like a weird surfer dude voice, sort of.
No, I hate his voice. It does my head in.
It's weird. Is this right? So this is sort of my question. Is the weirdness of this game sort of par for the course for like
I feel like he is serving a very standardized JRPG role in what he's doing in that game. They're typically, I mean, if you were to Google like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, for example, right now, you would probably see a busty woman stood next to what looks like a fucking acorn with eyes, because they have to have some dog shit in them like that at some point. So I think he is serving that purpose, but he's also like an all-powerful, almost godlike thing in this, isn't he? Yeah. But as I said to you, that really melodramatic scene where he gives somebody a hug was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It just looks so stupid.
And I guess like talking around spoilers in case, because it's still new out, it's probably not fair to spoil the game, but like the end of Act 1 is incredible. Like the way that it just goes, I just did not expect it to do, because it does something. I'm like, nah, it won't do that. I'm like, surely not, surely not, surely not.
Yeah.
And it gets to this point where it's done it, and you're like, well, it did it. I can't believe it did this. And then
it better not. It better not retcon or undo this in some stupid way later.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen yet. I've just done the second of the axons. Do you know what they are?
How do you spell that? And I'll Google it.
AXONS. They're like massive things that you need to destroy two of to be able to craft a weapon to penetrate the barrier around the paintress. Okay.
I don't recognize it. So I am heading to the paintress at the moment.
Oh, you're going to the ruins of the old Lumiere? Is that where you're going?
I'm currently in them.
All right. Yeah, you're not you're basically about to find out about these axon things.
Yeah, I'm currently in them, sort of debating my party now. I've sort of stuck with a similar party throughout most of the game, and now I've just sort of met a new party member that I was texting you about briefly, thinking
he's very fun.
Do I want to bring him in? Because I'm at the point where I'm not sure what to do really with that little ginger kid, and I still don't understand
I turned her into basically a complete fire user with all of my all of the sort of skills and the way that I try to line her up. Basically, I've kind of been doing it where I try to keep everybody at the same level. So if like two people level up higher than anyone else, I drop them and then bring everybody else in. And then I pick my strongest lineup when I know a boss is coming. And then if I do die, because last night I died on a boss and I had to send in the backup team, and I won it with the two of them instead of the original three. So I was really pleased with that. Well, kind of. That also means I lost out on XP for 3 people, but whatever. Yeah. I'll get it back. It's easy to grind.
Oh yeah, I need to quiz you more on your sort of party compositions, because up until the end of Act 1, I was like, I have got this nailed. And then
you really had. What you were telling me was blowing my mind how shit I was compared to you.
It was unreal, and I just haven't quite got back into that groove yet. I'm using the floating chick.
Yeah, she's always good because she's got a revive. You just need. She's so handy for that.
She's got a decent heal that she can use on the whole party, and I've got this move for
yes,
her.
I got that as well.
Where I can't remember. I'm making a bad job because I can't remember.
It's not that Earth one where you've got to have like a red, yellow, and a blue thing to do like massive damage.
You've got to have 4 electrics in it.
It
absorbs them all and does like massive damage. And I've also stuck on each one of my characters the 50%, 200% damage, because I think like as it.
I did that on everybody. I haven't done it on everyone yet.
Because I feel like if you average that out, it's going to kick ass, right? Because like 200% is so much more good than 50% is bad.
Yeah, definitely. So, and it's only a 50% chance of either of those happening anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like a 1 in 4. I don't know.
The sort of main dude that takes over being the main dude. I spend a lot of time using his like shooting ability to try and, because that's a quick way to rack.
He's first up, is he?
Yeah, and then I just he's got a few mark moves.
Yes. The sort of witchy dark magic chick, she can do some marking stuff as well that I try and use in tandem with each other. Yeah, I think I just unlocked a thing for him where I heal 50. I heal some percentage of my health by attacking a marked target, so that's
I've seen that,
worth looking out for when you get that.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, so
now that I know that I can give it to everybody after I realised many hours into the game that those Lumina points are actually for something.
Yeah.
Not just I've got like 48. Well. Wonder what they're for.
They're so useful as well. The only thing
they're amazing
is like I find it a bit of a hassle trying to go through all those pictos.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, I'm just like I only do it every like few hours because I just clear it and then purchase the ones I can and then sort of go through and list and try and like build it that way. But yeah, it's great in some ways that there's so many options, but there's just, for me, I'm finding that there's so many options that I just don't want to engage with it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I kind of understand that.
But other than that, yeah, it's a phenomenal game with a few issues. I don't particularly enjoy moving around the sort of overworld that much. I find that a bit of a slog from time to time.
Yeah, just purely because it doesn't seem to want to label anything. It just
No.
has like
It's a lack of labels. Because sometimes you go in those little shimmering things and there's like one thing to pick up. And then when you come out again, there's no indication that it's even like, oh, you've done that, don't need to go back in.
Yeah, I swear sometimes it doesn't even name where you've been. Yeah. It's just like, do you remember that lump you went in and got one thing?
Which
I don't.
The reality of that just means that I'm going to miss a lot of things, especially if I'll encounter an enemy that I'm just so underleveled for. And I was like, right, I'm obviously meant to circle back around. I'm never going to remember to circle back around. I just accept that is not going to happen.
Unless it path, it sort of carves a path for you to go that way.
Yeah. Are you enjoying any of the little sort of mini games it's got? I started trying to do the platforming one and then just thought, what am I doing? This is like,
I don't know where you're finding any of these. I haven't found any other than that volleyball one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's always on like,
all right, fair enough.
Those little paintbrush head beaches. There's always one there. So I think I found 3 so far. A volleyball one, climbing one that obviously you just climb really high, then fall back down to the bottom again. Fuck that. And then a platforming one over water.
I'll have to go and have a proper look for those if they're worth even doing. I did the fucking volleyball one, which was the last difficulty on that is just a joke. I don't even think human reactions can manage that. And I was just getting like costumes and stuff. Like I ain't doing it for that. I'll just have a wank with some porn, man. I'm not going to put them in a swimsuit. Come on, I've got stuff to do.
Has Expedition 33 taken over your gaming life, or have you been playing anything else as well?
I've kind of dropped off Blueprints because of it.
Damn it.
I mean, I will go back, but it's just I'm just kind of sick of getting in dead ends on that game. Which is a shame. And then just Mario Galaxy 2. Other than that,
great.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I've played about 15 hours of Oblivion.
Oh yeah, I saw it's got so many issues with it that I just thought, nah, fuck off.
Yeah, I saw you'd sent me that video. It's on I added it to my watch later list. Intended to circle back around to. I haven't made it yet. I've sort of not encountered many bugs.
Well, that's good.
Of the bugs that were already there in the game, but in some ways, that's what I wanted Oblivion to have was the old bugs, not a whole bunch of new ones.
Well, apparently one of them is an old bug because it's I think it was the PS3 had specific issues with if you had the game running for too long, it would just fucking tank. Like the performance would just completely drop.
Leak that was in the PS3.
Memory leaks.
Remember that?
Yeah, still there. That
sucks. Yeah, that's poor.
Yeah,
I was quite disappointed in it from another perspective because it came out and I was like, right, I am so ready. This was my favorite Elder Scrolls game. I am going to get back into this and just sort of relive everything. And it just, I felt, I don't know whether it's the new engine or what, but I just felt it just, for me, just didn't have the personality. And it just makes me concerned isn't the right word, but slightly cognizant of the fact that I might have just had my time with Bethesda RPGs. And for Elder Scrolls 6 is going to need to up its game, I think, for me. Otherwise I might bounce off because I adored Oblivion back in the day, and I was sort of hate playing it at some point, and then I was like, why am I doing this? And then I moved on to Expedition 33 and had a lovely old time.
Oh yeah, and I just skipped straight to that anyway, and
like
I do not regret it. A wise man indeed.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the listeners what we're doing today, since it's not Mario Galaxy 2?
Okay. Yeah. So I can't remember what exactly it was that inspired me to do this. I think I was hearing another podcast talking about lukewarm console exclusives, and they talked about some like really disappointing games, and I thought, we talked about disappointing games on our last podcast when we talked about the FPS genre wars, especially things like Duke Nukem Forever and whatnot. So I thought, I wonder if I could make a list of like gaming disappointments and see what I can come up with. And I think I came to well over 40 of them.
Yeah, I had to go today at lunchtime, and it was just, they are easy to come by.
Yeah. So
Which
this one,
I guess I don't know. Have we been fans of the sort of fans of the hobby for long enough that we're just going to encounter it, or is this like a particularly fuck you hobby? I don't know. Maybe football
I think there is a bit of that.
Hates you as much as anything. So
pretty much,
yeah. So it's probably just the nature of liking things, right?
I think if you like comics or movies, you've probably been fucked over by something recently. So
yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah. So what I've got is I've curated 20 disappointing things that have happened in the history of gaming. This will probably be a part one. I imagine we can get some more out of this.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is we're just going to go through them one by one. I will sort of talk through the notes that I've made today, and then David can react to those. Then we will put them in a tier list. And the tier list is as thus. We have an S tier, which is labeled as, hey, we all make mistakes. Let's hug it out. And that is something that's been
table for this. Am I looking in the wrong place?
I have made a tier list, yes. I wonder if I can share it with you. I don't know if I can. But I can share my screen. But it's going to have my notes on it for a lot of the time, so I don't really know how to do that well.
You managed to share, I'm sure you managed to share this with us last time. Or with me, at least, so I can just
but I'm going to have to keep flicking back to my notes page, so it's not going to look very coherent. So S tier basically is like something that was disappointing, but you've got maybe enough goodwill to forget about it, or maybe the thing itself was redeemed over time. Then we've got A tier, which will be I'm disappointed, but everyone gets a second chance, which is where maybe the reputation of somebody or a franchise or a company took a hit, but ultimately the company or the people went on to make up for it later. We've got B tier, which is labeled as the only reason I'm staying with you is for the kids, which is where the company or the series or the IP was severely damaged, but we have to keep faith in them because if we don't, then we're dead inside. There's probably going to be a lot of Nintendo ones that go in that tier. C tier, my disappointment is immeasurable, my day is ruined, which is something, it's a major bummer. You're totally deflated and you just can't think about forgiving it right now. It's just, that fucking sucks. And then we've got D tier, I will never forgive you for this, you are dead to me, which speaks for itself. Fuck everybody, fuck that and everybody involved with it.
Yeah.
They are the tiers. So the worst offenders will be D tier. The ones that we can let off will be S tier. So I guess there's not much left to do. Let me share the tier list that we've got at the moment, I guess, with David. This will not be required for the audio version of this podcast. You will be fine. Don't worry.
Excellent.
Can you see that all right?
Yes.
There we go. Right. So here we have the pictures, standard tier list format, blah, 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 blah. So now I guess I will stop because it's going to have my notes on it. Stop streaming. Right. So first up, I'll share that again when we add to it if need be. Right. First one, Rare, after Nintendo sold them. So on the 24th of September, let's make sure I'm still recording. On the 24th of September 2002, Microsoft purchased Rare for $375 million, not billion, as they would do with Activision. 30 employees left Rare during that transition, which I don't know if I was aware of. Some games of note that they have developed since they left Nintendo are Grabbed by the Ghoulies, which was their first game for Microsoft and is a hilarious pun about bollocks. Spelt Ghoullies, because it's to do with ghosts.
What do people think about that game? I don't know much about it.
It has a Metacritic of 66.
Oh, no.
Then we have Conquer Live and Reloaded, which was the Xbox original remake.
So I like that. Yeah, I was a fan.
Remaster. That has a Metacritic of 78, where the original Conquer's Bad Fur Day on the N64 has a Metacritic of 92.
Did it do the same jokes and things? Is it just a remaster?
I'm pretty sure.
It had, like, I've shit in it and stuff. I'm
pretty sure. Yes, I'm pretty sure it is basically just a remake of the same thing. But I haven't played either of them enough to answer that question properly.
I've completed the Xbox one, never played the N64 one. That's where I'm at with that. I enjoyed it fine, but I was like a kid, so don't know. Take that for what you will.
I plan to play at least one of them one day. Probably going to be that one.
Mm-hmm.
We have Cameo: Elements of Power, a 360 launch title, which has a Metacritic of 79, but does not deserve it. I think that was just people getting excited because it was slightly shiny.
Yeah, new console, shiny.
They definitely got too excited about Perfect Dark Zero, which was another 360 launch title that I got with my 360, which has a Metacritic of 81 and is absolute dog shit.
Yeah, I think I played, didn't like, moved on.
Yeah, it is abhorrent, that game. It has none of the sort of spirit of the original Perfect Dark. It looks horrible. It plays horrible. It's almost like a completely different team made it. I can't believe what happened to that game and series, which hopefully they are going to rectify, but we're still waiting.
A question to ponder while we're discussing this is, you're talking about the spirit. What is this sort of spirit of Rare? They're quite, like, I'm going through some of the games in my head, and they are incredibly eclectic. So they go from like Donkey Kong to GoldenEye to Perfect Dark to, I don't know, then I'm trying to think of Rare Replay games. They're just all over the place. I mean, like, they're probably known for making great games, but there's no like thread that would make a Rare game, is there?
Not really. They seem to just sort of specialize, or at least they did specialize. Well, even there, they specialize in basically 2D and then 3D platformers or adventure games and shooters.
Yeah.
Was basically their remit. I mean, way before they did Donkey Kong Country, they were doing all kinds of stuff for the NES. That they did so many NES games. It's crazy.
Yeah, Rare Replay is the fantastic piece of software.
Yeah, I haven't got that listed here purely because it's a compilation. But yeah, that can be kind of thought of in that sense. Probably the best thing they've done.
The post Nintendo era, like the best thing they've done is Rare Replay and aspects of Sea of Thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Sea of Thieves is good, there's really nothing like it, but there's just a lot of bullshit in there.
Yeah, usually other people.
Yeah, and it's the other people. But yeah, sailing that ship is unlike anything I've played. Truly.
Really, really, really great. But before that, we still had to deal with all the Viva Pinata stuff. You ever played any of those games? I've not really.
I've played the first one.
What did you think?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty good. 2, I think, is the one people like, but I didn't get into that one. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I sort of fell off when it started wanting to make me make the pinata's mate. And I was just like, I don't know what this is becoming. I just sort of wanted to make my little pinata farm and have a nice time. But yeah, it becomes in depth in that. But yeah, I think it's generally quite well. It spun off into its own cartoon.
Yeah, that seems to probably have been the most popular thing that they made, or at least series that they kind of created, other than maybe Sea of Thieves, but I don't know how that really does anymore.
Probably chugs along with its audience quite well. It's one of those games that sort of is secretly quite successful, I think. Just nobody ever talks about it because it's got its audience and they play it.
Probably, yeah.
And we just carry on doing our own, playing the other shit.
Yeah. What else do we have? Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts. I mean, that could have a disappointment tier all of its own because, Jesus Christ. I really have...
Went back to it and then didn't like it so much.
I never really played it when it first came out because I was so unsold on it just not being another Banjo game. And the having played Tears of the Kingdom, which I would assume is like a much more... what's the word? Sophisticated version of the vehicle crafting in that game. I don't know if I do want to go back because I didn't really enjoy Tears of the Kingdom. So, no thanks. That's a desecration of one of my favorite games.
I'm interested in you saying that because you're such a big Zelda man and I'm sort of not. But I had exactly the same. Like if I'm going to play one of those new Zelda games, it's going to be the first one more than the second one, I think, these days.
Yeah.
I just had no interest in that game. I just bounced straight off it.
So what a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, just too much busy work. I don't want to spend my gaming time doing stuff like that. Sadly, maybe I'll give it another try when they switch to.
Am I correct in saying, is my memory correct? Though you're a sort of well documented, not into crafting sort of gamer.
Yes. Yeah. I don't like survival stuff really, unless it's kind of basic and not overly intrusive to what I'm actually there to have fun with, which usually is not crafting.
No, those games tend to be the core mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Minecraft to thank for that.
Yeah. They then seem to get demoted after that, I would suggest. No one really heard anything decent out of Rare for a long time after Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, because they were mostly just doing Connect Sports stuff. Connect Sports C2, Connect Sport Rivals. They probably did some more Connect shit as well. Then Sea of Thieves, which David's already touched on, and then although it was mostly developed by Delilah Studios, that Battletoads reboot they did that didn't really go down very well either.
Which I'm sort of mixed on, because in many ways it's quite a true sequel to itself. It's just like, should I whisper this? Battletoads was never actually that good. Is that the? Yeah,
no, you don't have to whisper it to me. You can shout it from the rooftops. I fully agree with you. Having played that one on the SNES, Christ Almighty, dreadful. So, I mean, that's what they've done. It really does feel like a complete waste of what Microsoft had, whether they didn't have the right audience for it.
Or they're apparently working on something new, is that right?
Well, Perfect Dark, right? Is that not them? Are they doing that? I think they are. I will let you figure that out. But considering they've made, prior to being sold to Microsoft, and in fairness,
they're involved. So the lead developer seems to be someone called The Initiative, and then Rare's involved.
Oh, The Initiative is like Microsoft's big old like powerhouse development team, apparently, with loads of people from different studios kind of brought together.
Okay.
They just spaffed money on talent.
Well, there you
go. Considering
Crystal Dynamics, fuck, I forgot about that.
Oh no, not them. So before Microsoft had them, and to be fair to them, they offered the most money. So what are you going to do? Nintendo, apparently Rare were very surprised that Nintendo did not buy them outright. They had what? They had GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong Racing, and Banjo-Kazooie. 4 of my favorite games ever made.
Yeah.
And they've done since then nothing even remotely close to anything in my top 2 of 300 games. I know you probably weren't as massive of a Rare head as I was before that. So I guess your disappointment in their state these days is probably not as heavy as mine is, or is it?
No, it's much lower than yours. I'm sort of big fan of the OG Donkey Kongs and obviously GoldenEye. Other than that, not really. And then I'm got such. I'll probably never play it again in my life, but I've got such a soft spot for Sea of Thieves. I think that's a half incredible, half terrible game. And I think my disappointment is much lower than yours. However, when I hear you logic it out, it's hard to disagree with that. Why you're disappointed? I would be. Like I think like BioWare is an example of a developer that sort of has been on a similar journey. Just was obviously made amazing games, was sold to someone else, and then it's just steadily shat to the bed more and more as time has gone on.
Yeah, I think Rare have had something of a redemption at least. Yeah,
they've
of sorts with Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Connect.
But before that, it was no. We'll get onto that later. Don't you worry. So if we're talking about in the tier list, then of the state of Rare, well, I mean, what's your initial thought?
It feels like I stay with them for the kids because
I think so.
Their kids being the old classic games are fantastic. So you sort of still have a fond soft spot for them. Even if
I think so.
Your stuff isn't within the spirit of what they used to be.
Yeah, we can't say everyone gets a second chance because they've had a lot of chances already since then. But Yeah, they have subsequently made something okay, and there, I guess, is still the potential for them to make a Banjo game. If someone's going to make it, it has to be them, really. That's where the IP lies.
Or Microsoft will spin up a new team and then just stick a Rare stamp on it, which
maybe
I suppose is where we're at these days with these sort of development teams.
Yeah, a game that I haven't mentioned, that was developed by Rare, because it has its own tier or its own spot on this list, is Diddy Kong Racing DS, which was developed by Rare.
Huh.
Let me tell you some things about this game, and then we'll see how you feel. Because Diddy Kong Racing, as in our podcast that we did about it, one of our favourite games, one of my favourite games of all time, one of the best kart races ever made.
Yep.
Was really excited for this to come out on the DS. Couldn't believe it. They're bringing it back. All right, so it's, it doesn't have Banjo and Conquer in it because for some reason, even though Rare created them, Microsoft owned them, but because this is on the DS, they can't. They were not lending them back. Okay. So,
well, if they did that today, they would absolutely be on there because I don't know, Microsoft don't give a shit about their own platforms anymore. Yeah,
you're right. Actually, Phil Spencer probably would be totally cool with that these days. I mean, he's let Banjo be in Smash, so there's your answer already.
Yeah.
And they also had Banjo games on the GBA, so I don't really understand why they were so wanky about it in this instance. But they were replaced by Tiny Kong and Dixie Kong, which is what everybody wanted. We were waiting for that, so that was great. Had 4 new Donkey Kong themed racetracks. Although there were modifications to the soundtrack, which to me is like fucking trying to rub out a little bit of the Mona Lisa and do your own alterations to that. Like, don't fuck with a masterpiece. Exactly. GameSpot gave it a 6.7 out of 10 and said this is their words because it's easier than trying to remember it myself. It says one of the lamest new features is the pre-race boost. You'll need to blow into the microphone if you're driving the hovercraft to get a little extra speed. To boost your kart, you rapidly move the stylus or your finger downward as if you're spinning a tire. You move your finger or a stylus in a circular motion to simulate spinning a propeller when you're piloting the plane.
Oh God, I hope we don't have that shit in Mario Kart World or whatever it's do is coming.
Can you imagine?
Get the mouse out and then just like rub your eyes.
Vic Reeves it really fast. Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't think they'll fuck with it that bad, but the first time I had to blow into the microphone instead of just pressing the A button when it says go, I was furious. And then the amount of times more you have to do that,
still at that
unacceptable.
Shit, like, you have to blow into loads of your controller now for Astro, one of the various Astro games.
I think they kind of made it a little bit novel again, with that one. But
annoy me. I'm trying to think of different things. Did you have your candles you had to blow out on the DS? I've got a vague memory of something.
Probably. The DS was like the peak of all of that shit, wasn't it? Oh, well, maybe the Wii U, but no, the DS. Also, a big proponent of what we like about Diddy Kong Racing is the adventure mode. Mm-hmm. However, they decided to not leave that intact and pure. They fucked with that one as well. So after you've done the races in the hub world, as is in the original, you would then fight a boss or race against the boss. However, once you do that, you don't do the silver coin challenge anymore. You do you do the races again. This time, you're riding on a self-guided magic carpet, and all you do is pop balloons with the stylus that are on the screen. You also collect coins by dragging them into your wallet. After popping the balloons, you take on the boss for a second time. Then you do the trophy race. Then you have to fight the boss again. But it's not a race this time. You watch the action from above and you race with your stylus. You spin a small wheel in the corner to get some speed, and then you have to draw a path for your driver to follow.
Why?
And apparently when your cart slows down, the tyre appears again and you have to spin it some more. But while you're doing that, you can't steer the cart. So you end up driving off the course. And it doesn't follow the path very well. And apparently it was a complete and utter mess. So they absolutely massacred my boy. I cannot believe it. I was so pissed off.
That's such a slam dunk. Just release the same thing again.
Yep, let me play that on the shitter and I will be your friend for a long time. Do that to it and you, well, we'll decide, I guess.
I mean, that's terrible.
Is that unforgivable? Are they dead to me?
That's an unforgivable port, certainly.
Yeah. It didn't run very well either.
Yuck.
I think. I mean, are we talking about Rare? What are we talking about here? This is I don't know why I'm asking this question. I've made all this up, so I should be the one to answer it. It's either a C or a D, isn't it? I think it has to be a D. They upset me so much with that. I couldn't believe I wasn't wanting to play that anymore for all the shit they added to it. I thought even if I can just play the normal races, I just don't want to give this my time.
Diddy Kong Racing's a D. DS. Is that a D?
What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
I would actively never want to play that. That's terrible.
Okay, good.
I would be angry if I'd given someone money for that.
Well, I was. I very much was. Christ. It was so shit that when I read that Rare developed it, I was gobsmacked. I was like, holy fuck, I thought this had been outsourced to someone else, which is why it was so shite and unrepresentative of the actual game. But no, I was completely wrong. It was just them still being not very good since Nintendo sold them. Anyway, right. Slightly still related to Rare at this point. The Kinect is our next gaming disappointment.
Okay.
So the Kinect, of course, was supposedly, people seem to think, an impressive piece of kit, although it was quite inaccurate. It was pretty imprecise, unreliable at times as well.
What's that movie it's in?
Oh, was it in a movie?
Scared the living daylights out of me, that movie series. Paranormal Activity.
Oh, was it in that?
Yeah, it's in the second one, I think. Apparently, they're sitting playing on Kinect, and then the Kinect starts picking up ghosts in the background. Oh,
see, that's almost cool.
It's the best use of Kinect.
It's almost cool. It's definitely the best use of Kinect ever. Obviously, people had a lot of privacy concerns with this as well, even back then, because, people say, oh, my phone's watching me and shit, but your Kinect genuinely was just watching you from if you wanted to make a gesture to start your Xbox. To do that, it has to be watching you. There's no way it can't. But I think one of the most disappointing things about the Kinect is I think it changed Microsoft's focus, because they were flying so high with the 360, and then seemingly just got pissed off that the Wii decided to create its own different audience for casual gamers.
Yeah,
made a ton of change out of that, and Microsoft just could not stand winning in their own lane. They wanted to be in both lanes at once, and yet they probably pushed a little bit too far towards Nintendo's lane, and it was to their detriment for many, many years thereafter. I watched I skipped through because watching this was just cancer. The E3 2010 from Microsoft it was a 90-minute presentation, and almost an hour of it was on Kinect, and it was some of the cringiest shit you will ever see. Just if you decide that you want to have a horrible time before you go to bed tonight, folks, watch Microsoft's E3 2010 presentation where they talk about Kinect. They had a guy on there talking about Zune. Remember that? No, me neither. But he decided to show us how that music system works by playing some Justin Bieber. Then a woman came on and said, what I love about Kinect is it's not just about video games, which is a great thing to say at the biggest video games convention of the year to a bunch of gamers and games journalists. She had then she had the most cringe conversation in a video chat with some other insufferable bint, and honestly, it was horrific. They were just talking absolute shit. She was saying stuff about something about gamer score, and then someone was like, oh yeah, Yeah, that's what you. Oh, there was some like shitty game or something, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you just play that for the gamer score." And then the other one was like, "No, my gamer score is 100% legit." Oh, fuck off! You never played a game in your life. You just said it's not all about the video games. Anyway, then they had that Connectimals thing with the little girl playing with the tiger, where one of the comments hilariously said that they had to mute the video at that point because if somebody had heard it from a different room, it would sound like they're watching child porn. Because she's just trying to like tickle a tiger and get it to like jump on top of her. Absolutely disgusting. We had Connect Sports presented by the biggest douchebag I have seen in a very long time, who starts off by pretending that Japan has won the Football World Cup and celebrates it, and then has a hurdles race against another female presenter and proper goes for it. Absolute knobhead. What I've written here is Connect Joyride, another absolute lizard chatting brain-rotting shit while playing a game where the whole thing is just holding an invisible steering wheel. She tried to keep the conversation up while she was playing that, and she bombed hard. Connect Adventures, some middle-aged white dudes kept having to pose for a photo, and they shouted cheese every time they did it for some reason. Then they had Your Shape Fitness Evolved, which is just a woman working out, just in her workout gear. Dance Central, obviously a little twat did a dance. Yep. They showed that Star Wars game, which looked, it looked so shit. That Star Wars Connect game was the slowest game ever made. It's like half-speed Star Wars game. I can't believe how shit that looked. And then they did Forza, just Forza Motorsport, where that gimmick of that was, again, you just pretend to hold a steering wheel. You just put your arms out and turn them a little bit to play the game. But it also did that head tracking stuff, which I'm assuming was designed.
The head tracking seems to be the obvious thing to do with that.
Yeah, just designed to give you some motion sickness, I assume.
I never really understood it. I mean, apparently people use it, and a lot of people use the head tracking stuff in games like Euro Trucks and American Truck Simulator. But I never understood. Oh yeah, I never understood it. It's like, here, I'm going to track your head so that when you turn your head away from the screen that you're looking at, it'll move the head on screen. I don't understand why people use that. It just confuses me.
Yeah. Would you like us to make your view of the game you're trying to play less efficient?
Yeah.
Like less optimal? Well, we've done it. Just don't move your head or it'll fuck you.
So sort of the two things that jumped out while you were going through that horrific list. I had a lot of fun with Dance Revolution or whatever it is, Dance Central.
Dance Central, okay.
Yeah, that was a good drinking game with your mates before you went out.
Yeah, I can see that probably was
probably the only thing I really enjoyed with Connect. And two, like that was that. I mean, like we'll probably encounter a lot of these when we talk about the video game industry and their like monumental cock-ups, but like the chasing the Nintendo Wii audience was such a poison chalice. Like Nintendo argued, like obviously such a massive success for them. But it took them about 5, 6, 7, 8 years to properly recover from the Wii. Like obviously, like in terms of like the sales of the Wii, phenomenal. They made a lot of money. They sold a lot of games. They made some great games actually on that console. However, they then followed that up with the Wii U, which was a total disaster, and then they had to go back to the drawing board. And don't know, like I say, like poison chalice, because on one hand it did such a good job for them in terms of sales and that generation, but on the other hand it took them a long time to recover from that and sort of reset and recenter and come back to being Nintendo. And then the sort of other jump out point I kind of thought from that is that you abandon your core audience at your peril. Like,
yeah,
you remember, you do not, when it comes to these sort of industries that create fandoms, you do not turn your back on the people that put you where you are. I think, and like Nintendo went as close to that line, I think, as it's possible. And this was a big, this and then the launch to the Xbox One, sort of the Connect,
yeah,
and the subsequent launch of the Xbox One, where they packaged in the Connect, was a real like, oh, we don't value our core audience anymore, and we're trying to move away from that. And
well, exactly, and doing that,
they've never recovered from that, unfortunately.
No, they haven't, because doing that, they gave this new version of the Kinect sensor that was going to be sort of a forced use of it. It meant that the console cost $100 more than the PS4. So it's $500 versus $400 for the PS4. And when it hit the market in November 2013, for months after it was launched, it was outsold by the PS4. It was like it was outsold by like 3-1. It was a crazy. I mean, that and obviously like the DRM stuff and all that like secondhand digital shit.
Well, that's the thing. That's also the shame. I was listening to people talking about the Xbox. I know we're slightly off topic here, but the Xbox One, but the packaging in of the Kinect. And again, like the sort of statement of intent that sort of declared for the company, like it's actually a shame because I don't think the Xbox One is that bad a console. When you actually look at what they did with the always online and the digital stuff, like it almost came 5-6 years too early because that's a lot of what that console was doing is what we've come to expect as standard from our consoles these days. And it's a little bit of a shame because it is just changed. It was like sort of changed the direction of Microsoft forever, really. It was the sort of the canary, not the canary in the coal mine. I've had canary in the coal mine in my head because I feel like Kinect was the canary in the coal mine for Peter Molyneux, where he started going mental with Milo.
God, yeah. Well, there's another Kinect thing there. Yeah,
Rails Fable game that he just wouldn't tell us whether it was on Rails or not. But yeah, I don't think that's a bad console. I just think it came out too early and it was doing things that its audience weren't, the gaming industry as a whole wasn't ready to accept. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah. I mean, and what was it? So May 2014. So not just about 6 months after the console released, Microsoft actually relented on the insistence that Kinect would need to be bundled with it, so they then sold a version without it for $400. They closed the TV studio they opened to provide interactive TV content with Kinect in October 2014. In 2016, with the release of the Xbox One S, they removed the built-in Kinect port, which meant that you had to buy an external USB adapter if you wanted to use Kinect still, and then in turn, that adapter was discontinued at the end of 2017. The Kinect had 16 Just Dance games for it. 16 of them. Fucking 16. Okay. And what pisses me off the most about Kinect, I think, is for the Xbox 360, we had that shocking revelation when we did our console ranking that the 360 actually sold less than the PS3. And I blame Kinect almost entirely for that because PS3, towards the end of its life cycle, finally had people understand how to develop for it and actually started making some good games, whereas the 360 was too focused on something that Nintendo was already winning.
I mean, in fairness, the PS3 did have that stupid move thing with the little balls on the end of that.
Yeah, they tried it too, to be fair, but they gave up a lot quicker and just sort of thought, actually, this is shit, isn't it? Let's not make anything for this, and then just didn't.
What games did that Xbox TV studio make? I'm sure they had a couple that came out.
Wasn't Quantum Break one of them?
Quantum Break, that was the one I was thinking. Worth playing, I would say, for anyone that's interested.
Okay, in that. Fair enough.
Actually, although Alex, don't you bother. I think it runs at 30 FPS.
Well then, no.
But yes, it is actually a fun game. It's a good old Remedy. That I played that during when I fell down that Remedy hole.
Mm-hmm.
Still didn't play Control though.
Oh yeah. Before we put this in the tier list, is my video feed all right for you, or is it shit?
It's sporadically shit. It's mostly okay.
I don't know if this laptop's any good. I might have to send it back. It doesn't seem to be.
You sound fine, but you can every so often you start going slow. Don't know what it's doing.
Where do we think Kinect goes in the tier list?
I think this has probably got to be quite low, but like I say, just because of what it represented for Xbox, and ultimately was sort of the first nail in what would eventually be the coffin of what, I don't know. It changed Microsoft probably forever. And put them into the state that they ended up in the Xbox One era because of their their desire to chase an audience that didn't want what they were putting down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they weren't picking it up.
Yeah, so I'd be tempted to put this C, probably. I was going to say D, but ultimately it's not a D because...
Yeah, I think they realised their mistake eventually.
Yeah.
And they did kind of
got Don
just delete it.
Ejected seated him out of that hot seat.
Yes, they did. So that... I mean, I still stuck with Xbox as well.
Yeah,
I got a Series X. So I don't know if it is actually a B, because it was a misstep, but we still kind of liked the platform enough to not let it tarnish
so for me,
Xbox for us. I just think it was very misguided.
Yeah, I did end up with a Series X, but that generation, I was all about the PS4. I switched.
Me too. Who wasn't?
I switched laterally, and the only reason I switched is because Game Pass came out, and I was subscribed, and I was subscribed to this service I was never making use of because I never turned on my Xbox. So I was like, right, if I make the conscious decision to start using my Xbox as my main console, I'll scoop up all the Game Pass games, and then I can sort of also just keep playing. That's what brought me back to the Xbox Fold.
Yeah.
So they had to do some work.
All right. Me. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think we were quite bummed out about that whole generation as Xbox fans. So, all right, let's put it in C then. I think C is the sensible choice.
Yeah.
Connect goes in C. Right. Speaking of the PS3, that is our next disappointment. So not a terrible console by any means.
No.
I think Bravado definitely got to Sony's head after its still insurmountable PS2 success, but they just completely whiffed this one. Apparently the biggest sort of crisis came when, in the development of the console, the team tried to figure out how to program this like Sony designed graphics chip, and it didn't take into account this sort of PC gaming revolution that had happened. So Nvidia had pioneered some new techniques, notably programmable shading, so that developers could run a graphics program on every single pixel of a game scene, allowing for much greater complexity in their images. So Sony shit their pants, scrapped its in-house graphics chip, and at the last minute they signed a deal with Nvidia to provide the custom graphics chip for the PS3. Apparently they had to scrap a load of work for that, and so therefore that new chip that they just invested in, plus the decision to make it a Blu-ray player, meant that the console was priced at $499 for the 20 gig model and $599 for the 60 gig model, which
I sometimes wonder,
horrific.
You were talking about that. I also was sort of thinking about it with the Kinect. Do people make these decisions based on sort of, oh, well, X worked, so Y must work? So, for example, when it came to the sort of launch of Xbox Live, the decision to pack in the headset is often seen as like a massive like selling point and success, which makes me think that fed into the decision to pack in the Kinect with the Xbox One. They're like, oh, well, that was a game changer, so if we force every console to have it from the beginning, it sort of creates this massive audience. And then sort of wind that over to the PlayStation side, it's often seen as a massive success of the PS2 that it came with a DVD player. Is that the reason they decided to have that with a Blu-ray player in the PS3, but ultimately ended up being a bit of a bite in the arse because it made the console so expensive?
They still lost a couple of $100 on every model they sold.
Yeah, interesting.
And of course, this spawned the infamous quote from Ken Kutaragi, who said that he wanted the PS3 to make consumers think to themselves, I will work more hours to buy one. We want more people to feel that they want it, irrespective of anything else.
Right, okay. This is the old get a second job.
Yeah, or just work longer.
Yeah.
When it launched as well, it had backwards compatibility.
I really want
for
one
a bit.
Of those fats as well. Really, really want one of those.
Yeah. Then they just took it away and never made another PS3 with any backwards compatibility of it, which was a really weird decision. I know it obviously must have saved them a bunch of money, but Sony have really not been very good with their preservation compared to Xbox for a long time, and they certainly were miles off it here, offering it for a bit and then scrapping it. Lest we forget as well, the PSN was really bare bones and very, very shit compared to Xbox Live.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like, if you're going to make me choose between the two as well, like, I think trophies is probably a better, what do you call it, like a format to the achievement system these days. However, when PS3 launched, it didn't have any. Like, there's PS3 games that still don't have trophies to this day. Yeah, they missed out on a lot of sort of key areas. And remember, it was free as well, PSN, for many years.
Well, you got what you paid for at that point, right? Which was yes, indeed. What else? And of course,
no Rumble in the
developers
launched.
yeah. What was that one then? 6-axis, and then they had some games that tried to just force the tilty shit into it.
The original Uncharted, when you played it on PS3, you had to like walk across a log and then like move your controller so he didn't fall off the log.
Yes. Yeah. Jesus, I forgot about that. Developers obviously found it really hard to program for as well at the beginning. Gabe Newell said, the PS3 is a total disaster on so many levels. I think it's really clear that Sony lost track of what customers and what developers wanted. He said, even at this late date, they should just cancel it and do a do-over. Just say this was a horrible disaster and we're sorry and we're going to stop selling this and stop trying to convince people to develop for it. That was in 2007. And but Kaz Hirai said that was on purpose. He said, we don't provide the easy to program for console that they want, because easy to program for means that nobody will be able to take advantage of pretty much what the hardware can do. So then the question is, what do you do for the rest of the 9.5 years? Effectively saying it gets good after 30 hours. And that's the video game equivalent of, it'd be really good by the time like 2010 comes around, because everyone will know what they're doing by then.
Weird thing to say.
I don't care if it's 2007. Just wait 3 years and we'll have some good games. And yes, they did have some good games eventually. It has got some very, very good stuff. And you can tell, I think lots of people point to Last of Us, don't they, as like, there's the proof that when you can get a real hold of what this console can do and you're exclusively developing for it and not having to try and completely like redo much of your game's code for a completely different like graphics chip and stuff, you can make some shit hot looking things. But when it came to multi-format stuff, like the PS3 was always behind the 360. Like things like Bayonetta, Skyrim, just so much worse on the PS3 than on the 360. So much worse. Yeah,
it's a bummer of a console.
Yeah,
in many ways.
You had one way before I did.
I got one for the old exclusives, because I was at Resistance Fall of Man. I was like, see the elevator pitch for that game, sounds shit hot, but actually playing it was just never that good. None of them were ever that good. And I think a lot of PlayStation fans just tried to, sorry if I'm offending people here, but just used to try and convince themselves it was good because they wanted a really good quality shooter. Same with Killzone 2. Killzone 2 was mostly decent. It just felt like you were running about in treacle. It's a shame. Ultimately, that console did sell pretty well. I think, did it not end up selling as much, if not more, than the Xbox 360? But it did. That's the old, I feel like this is the old misnomer that people are like, actually, the PS3 is just as successful as the Xbox 360. However, it took the PS3 till like right towards the end of its life cycle before it caught up, which meant there was like 5-6 years of the Xbox 360 selling more consoles and by proxy more games, I would assume. So
and to only
not as good as people think it is.
No, to only just pip a rival that you had beaten in the previous generation by like over almost 100 million units, you done fucked up.
Yeah.
Whether I was personally disappointed by it, I'm not sure. I was probably indifferent
to it
being so shit.
because the Xbox 360 was doing everything I wanted it to do. It was just feeding me all the juicy gaming goodness that I could have wanted. And then, like, I guess, like, I don't know, like, to try and sort of say a positive for the PlayStation 3, is this the last time that Sony were at their sort of weird best? Does that make sense? So they were like flinging out so many cool games, they were doing such, like, Sony, I feel like, especially in the PS1, PS2 era, were known for being this sort of zany game development manufacturer that would sort of throw stuff at the wall, and you end up with stuff like Parappa the Rapper or Vib Ribbon and things like that. And I think PS3 was maybe the last time we saw Sony do that sort of thing, obviously with the PS Vita, which was or the PSP. But yeah, when it came to the PS4 and the PS5, they became a bit more bog standard, focused on big budget games in a way they weren't up until then.
Yeah.
To me, it's a.
How do you? So where? Yeah, go on.
Because ultimately, they're still here. They're still.
I think
I was disappointed, but
every time we go to this tier list, I have to go back and fucking reread what the hell it means. Yeah.
Hello. He's back.
Yeah.
You said.
So we're saying, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You said last time I heard you said. Oh, is you gone again? No, last thing you said I need to keep reading these lists to remind myself, and then I didn't hear anything else.
Yeah, to what it is. But yeah, I think I agree. It's an A because, yes, ultimately, the PS4 was phenomenal.
I think if we're talking about Sony in general, it might have been a sort of S. We all make mistakes. Let's hug it out. However, the PS3 now is disappointed, but like their second chance is the PS4, right? To me,
yeah,
the PS3 was just not as cool as the 360, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think what we'll probably have to do is limit this episode to 10 rather than 20. I think 20 was maybe a bit of an overshot considering we've got over an hour at this point.
Why I'm actually enjoying going through your list here and listening to your sort of arguments that you're pitching. If we're going to do more of these, why don't we take turnabout where I'll pull together a list and I'll bring 10 to the table and we'll add it and we'll have like a live list. I think that sounds fun. And it also means you're not doing all the heavy lifting all the time.
True. Yeah. I did share the document with you anyway, so you can see like what's already been covered, so you don't have to worry about overlap.
I went through this afternoon and put a bunch of my own suggestions in, just on a different list, and then as we've been going through them here, I've been crossing them out so I can keep track.
Okay. Right. The next
2, 3, 4. We've done 4 so far.
Yeah. Imagine if we do 20, we'll be here for like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So next one. It's fuck me. This laptop is shit. I paid over 200 quid for this. I'm sending it straight back.
Is it overheating? What's it? Do you know what its problem is?
I mean, it doesn't sound like it's overheating. And if I go to the task manager, which is not loading quickly.
Yeah, it's just using up all the memory, I guess. I don't know how.
Well, it doesn't.
Well behaved.
It doesn't seem to have been.
For memory usage.
I mean, I think it's the GPU that seems to just be dying.
Right. Okay.
It's obviously just got a shit GPU in it.
Yeah.
I guess it can't handle Discord because that's using about 80% of its, 86% of its memory or utilization anyway.
Less hungry.
I think I could maybe just
chat. Like
try and
Google
fix
Hangouts.
the USB-C port on my old laptop, or I can just use my PC.
Yeah.
Just have to buy some really long cables and plug it into these monitors from all the way over there.
I just wonder if like a Google Hang, like something that runs in a browser might be less intensive. I don't know how it works, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If I go to see what's actually taking up the most memory, because this is just like, it's just not fun.
We can get rid of the video and try and just see if that makes it settle down a bit.
I mean, it's Firefox. It's apparently using over 1 gig of memory, and all I've got open is the tier list and 2 Google Docs.
Oh my god! I thought Firefox was pretty good. I always hear people I don't know if it's better now, but it was like because this was like 10 years ago. People used to moan about Chrome being a bit hungry.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Well, maybe just kind of feels like we're going to not have a video if I turn that off.
I can keep chatting and I'll put some.
Well, I can turn your video off, can't I? And
yeah. Oh yeah, I do that. And I can try and put some game footage in if you start chugging too badly.
How do I turn your video off?
Do I need to turn mine off?
No, don't you? Because I guess you need it for your feed, don't you? Options, disable video. Okay, but we'll keep you as the main screen anyway, so that mine's kind of tiny. Oh my god! Oh, you're still there, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Right.
Where are we at?
Still recording. Okay. Right. So the next one. Oh yeah. The next one I've got is Sega dropping out of the console market. So I've got some facts from a article I wrote in Sega Force Mega magazine. So basically, the Dreamcast. Sega had its problems up to that point anyway, because the Saturn was obviously an unmitigated failure. They'd fucked around with things like the 32X and the Mega CD, and none of that landed. Not even really the Game Gear either. Had a really good launch, actually, the Dreamcast. Took about $100 million in one day, but was discontinued within 18 months, just over 18 months.
I remember right from sort of audio booking that book.
Or
something. It was sort of DOA, right? It was almost impossible for that console to do well enough that Sega could have continued. Yeah.
It seemed like it was a bit of a panic, rush it to the market to try and get in ahead of the PS2. They priced it. Bernie Stolar, however you say it, who was the Sega of America president, he was fired because he defied Sega of Japan and priced it at $199, which was a loss for each console. Before the PS2 launched, they were terrified of it, especially once they heard the specs. So Peter Moore was the CEO of Sega of America at that point, and he, alongside this guy Charles Belfield, he was the COO, Charles Belfield. They presented the Sega of Japan with this thing called the Manifesto of the Future. So it was basically just talking about, like, they knew that Sega was in financial trouble. They knew how much of a threat the PS2 was. And they asked Sega to leave the hardware market at that point. So that was in September 2000, which was a year after the Dreamcast had launched. And apparently, according to the COO, Charles Belfield, every single one of the executives from Sega of Japan got up and left the room in disgust at that suggestion. The PS2 obviously smashed it on October 26, 2000. It took $250 million in sales in its first day. Dreamcast had a brief uptick in sales once people realized how easily they could it would function as a machine for pirated games. But within less than 3 months of the PS2's launch, it was gone. They just got rid of it. They denied it for a day for some reason. Charles Belfield told IGN that the story of them going into software only and discontinuing the Dreamcast was the result of it being a very slow news day and people are very bored. And then the next day, Sega of Japan just was like, no, yeah, we're getting rid of it. And then they announced that they were going to start making software for the PS2, the GBA, GameCube, and so on and so forth. And here we are today. No more Sega consoles, apart from that weird and apparently not very good Sega Mega Drive Mini thing that they did a few years back. I obviously have a big hand, not a big hand, but like a toe in a lot of Sega stuff with a lot of very, very keen Sega people. And I think all of them kind of lament that we don't have Sega's sense of sort of arcade fun in the console market anymore, but I don't know how well that would actually function in today's gaming scene anyway.
There's a sort of arcadiness to what I sort of remember of old school Sega. But then I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have stuck through to today. I mean, it's a particular, I suppose it attracts a particular type of video game hobbyist, I guess, because it's right, you're saying it's sort of a lot of arcade stuff, but if I look at the modern Sega stuff, how much of it is arcadey? I'm trying to think, like, there's the Yakuza stuff, that's not arcadey at all, that's a proper RPG. There's...
Apart from the literal arcades that are in it, where you play Sega arcade games.
That's a very good point. Football Manager, when they can release those, since they didn't manage one this year. That's not really a console game, is it? That's a PC game. I don't know. I'm sort of a retrospective fan of the Sega Dreamcast. I never really had access to it too much when I was a kid. Beyond, like, I had one friend that had it who wouldn't let me play Shenmue because he says you can only have one save. So I never played that. And then I'd be a Toy Commander, which I loved. Don't go back to your heroes sometimes, listeners. It's not always the best idea,
especially if you've got to do it for a write-in gig.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi is still as good as it ever was. I probably appreciate that more today than I did at the time. But again, it's very arcadey, that one. It's
a shame they're going to ruin that with the new one as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's just going to be some free-to-play live service horse shit. So be warned, everybody.
Article I wrote for a Sega magazine, it was perhaps Jet Set Radio. I was talking about how this was sort of Sega's last swing of the fences, and they put together the youngest development team in Sega's sort of portfolio of developers, and they sort of captivated something that was going on in Japan culturally that was known as the Lost Generation.
Yes.
When we're talking about, like, PlayStation, in my opinion, the PS3 being sort of last time Sony, their weird swinging for the fences best, like, there is the sort of silver lining in the cloud of the Sega Dreamcast is because this was very much Sega on the ropes. We got to see what I think, at least, is Sega at their, like, Hail Mary, let's just go for it best. And I think part of the reason that we can look back on the Sega Dreamcast and see it as such a great console is obviously because it was, but secondly because it was just a company on the ropes, just seeing if they could make stuff stick, and because of that we got some really, really interesting games out of it. I don't know, you sort of, to build on what you were saying before about a sort of modern Sega in the hardware market, I think as time goes on, we may miss them more as Microsoft becomes increasingly detached, and we're increasingly looking at Nintendo doing their own thing off in the corner. Sony's the last sort of traditional console manufacturer, I guess, left around, and as like I say, as Microsoft increasingly sort of pull away from that, we are missing a competitor. But does that mean I'm necessarily missing Sega being Sega? I don't know about that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I do agree that. Yeah, I don't necessarily think. Well, I just don't think there's anything in their infrastructure or setup now that seems to suggest they'd have any chance of making anything work anymore.
No, that's correct.
With hardware, and I don't think their software output has been terrible at all
I
since.
think in recent years, over the last sort of 5-ish years, they've really come into their own. And they've found their niche,
and they've started to push back to they've stated that they're going to go back to all these old IPs and start trying to revive them as we saw at the last I think it was the Game Awards or the Summer Game Fest or whatever it was, where they
properly though. I don't trust this Crazy Taxi game.
Well, I definitely don't trust that. Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, obviously the Yakuza stuff that's come out has been great. They've done a whole load of Sonic stuff that some people like, some people hate since then, but I don't think Sega's is tarnished as a brand or anything since then. And I think it was probably already on enough of a downward spiral after the post Mega Drive, before the Dreamcast, or the early Dreamcast anyway, era, that although it's sad to look back on the fall of them from the Mega Drive days, I think by the time they actually stopped making hardware, we kind of knew the writing was on the wall and probably would have expected it then or before. So was it a crushing disappointment at that point in time? No, probably was just an inevitability, a sad inevitability, but I think we all kind of expected it. And
it really just shows you how cutthroat an industry console manufacturing is, because like they sort of make one, I was going to say one misstep, but it was a fairly major misstep, I guess, with the design of the Sega Saturn and the sort of controller design specifically, with the lack of like analog, and they were sort of going for high fidelity 2D games, I think, if I remember that book correctly. Rather than the 3D direction that the industry went. Like, that is just a catastrophic error that they just weren't able to recover from. Which is a shame.
Yeah. But hey, Sega aren't dead. They're still going.
No.
They've made some great games since then. They probably will continue to do so. So
interesting as well about Sega is sort of having interacted with your Sega chums, is that Nintendo has its own brand of loony fandom, but like Sega also has its like hardcore fan base that is ride or die Sega, and there aren't many companies that can survive the sort of transition that Sega have gone through and come out the other side with such a, quite frankly, some of them are quite rabid fans in a way that I've just not seen that with any other manufacturer. Nintendo's obviously still the hardware manufacturer, but in terms of like software, there's nothing like a Sega fan really around.
Yeah, and if you look at something like Atari, okay, they don't really produce that much anymore, but there's definitely not like that reverence and nostalgia and love for it that Sega sees today. I think a large part of that we see because we're in the UK, where Sega was a really popular manufacturer in the late 80s, early 90s. The Mega Drive and the Master System were big here. I think it did better numbers than the SNES in this country, or certainly in Europe. I'm not 100% on that, but I know that it was certainly a lot closer here than it was in Japan anyway. So we also had a really strong magazine scene for Sega in this country. I think, I look back to like N64 magazine and sort of Games Master and stuff like that as where I was growing up buying them and reading them like religiously. But before that, the way for that attitude and style was definitely paved by the Sega magazines of the early 90s. Nintendo magazines, as Nintendo was at that point in time, was quite, vanilla, banal, a little bit childish. Sega was all about attitude before the PlayStation decided to be about a bit more of a grown-up attitude than even Sega was. So I think it was like our culture around that in this country around Sega was sort of a real part of the zeitgeist of gaming. So I think that's why there's a lot of love that we see locally, for want of a better word, in this country for them, because people have that whole cultural love for what Sega represented back when they were at the top of their game.
Yeah,
that you don't really get in the States.
Maybe, I fully accept, and I would fully be open to the accusation that I'm just like creating scenarios in my head that maybe aren't true. But like an unfettered Nintendo, I don't know. We've spoken about the PS3 arrogance, but like the sort of way Nintendo were sort of waltzing about the industry around about the time that Sega had their sort of insurgency into the sphere, like so arrogant, so like you will do as we say or you can go away. Like, and then Sega came along and really disrupted the marketplace, really sort of stuck one up to it. And I don't know, maybe you can make the argument that things like the PlayStation, obviously Nintendo sort of spawned the PlayStation to an extent by doing over Sony when they tried to work together. However, I think the attitude that came out of that,
100%,
much more Sega than it does Nintendo, and perhaps
definitely
sort of adultness that we have, like sort of adult slant that we have access to in the games industry. We've obviously got a lot of things to thank for that. I mean, Doom's another one example that is probably a good, like, games can be more than these cutesy platformers. But yeah, I think Sega has a lot to say for that because of the way that they really just sort of shook up the gaming industry for a few years. To me, this is an S, because sad that Sega aren't making consoles. And like, again, like, retrospective fan of the Dreamcast, and some of the Dreamcast games I've played are truly fantastic, and they hold up in a way that a lot of games of that era just don't. Like this, some of the sports games I've played with you on Dreamcast are some of the best sports games I've played. End of, full stop. I'm not mad at Sega. I don't think they've fucked me over. I think they made mistakes, and they made a big error with the Saturn, and it's not the Dreamcast fault. So yeah, Sega sitting is just a sort of sad reality of capitalism, I guess. And bad management and bad cooperation between the US and the Japanese arms of it, which was the falling out of those two arms of the company. Really just caused so many problems and made so many bad decisions as a result. But yeah, Sega's still here. They're still making some cracking games every now and again. They make the Yakuza games now, so yeah, I'm with you. S is good with me. We'll hug it out. I still love you. Right. Next up then is the 3DS launch. And that was a stinker, wasn't it?
And its price dropped very soon after. So it released in Japan on the 26th of February 2011, and worldwide in March 2011. And less than 6 months after that launch, Nintendo announced the price reduction from $250 to $170. What was your best job?
I used to sort of work I was a lifeguard at that time, but also which was probably my best job, because you got to just go to work with your mates every day, then go out at night with them. But the actual cool bit about that is because I've got memories of this game. So the two things I used to do is I also managed to snag like a semi-regular job of like working in the town hall during a weekday evening. And that job consisted of going to the swimming pool, collecting a key, going to the town hall, opening the door, being the only member of staff in the building, setting up some tables, and then having a little hovel office I could sit in and play my 3DS or Football Manager on my laptop for like 6 hours. It was a cracking job.
What job were you supposed to be doing?
Well, so this is TMI, but there was when I worked at the swimming pool as a lifeguard, there were 5 full-timers and 2 part-timers. And the part-timer job was like 6 till 10 p.m. And what that meant, but then I was like an extra body that was meant to come in and help with like close up. So if there's anything needed done in the plant room or any cleaning needed done, I was an extra body that could like sort of rotate onto poolside while everybody did the work that needed to be done. But that just meant that I was an extra body, so that if for whatever reason they had staffing issues at the other satellite sites that they had, either like swimming lessons in the disabled school, or there was the secondary school they had swimming lessons in as well, or if there was like the town hall staff decided to not turn up for work, I often got drafted into those jobs. So I spent a lot of time moving around the town. But yeah, the town hall struggled for staff for a number of years while I was there, so I got to work at the town hall very often through the week, which I bloody loved. It was such an easy job. You sort of just listen to podcasts, set out, go in, put your podcasts on, listen to Giant Bomb at the time because it was peak Giant Bomb, lay out some tables and chairs, go into my little hole, whip out the 3DS. There's my night.
Nice.
Paid like
I used to play a lot of 3DS on night shifts as well.
So good.
Good. But it wasn't good at first. So Nintendo, when they revealed that price cut, the worldwide price cut, that was part of its so it announced its financials basically and reported a first quarter operating loss of 37.7 billion yen, which is about nearly $300 million. But it slashed its operating profit forecast to 35 billion yen from an initial one of 175 billion yen. Their quarter two losses were 25.5 billion, and they'd only sold 710,000 3DS consoles in that time. The launch lineup of games is very much to blame for that. You had things like Asphalt 3D, emphasis on the ass.
Nintendo launched with nothing, right?
Very unusual. When they announced the 3DS, they announced it alongside like loads of the stuff that was gonna come. Like I don't know if they necessarily had Mario at that point. Oh, sorry. But they definitely had like Luigi's Mansion 2. They had Mario Kart 7. This was all
Please be excited
to come. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Because when it launched, they had some preloaded shit. They had Lego Star Wars 3. They had Nintendo Dogs and Cats, Pilot Wings Resort, Rayman 3D, Ridge Racer 3D.
Pilot Wings Resort at Eurogamer before it came out.
Yeah, it was not very interesting at all. They had Monkey Ball 3D, and admittedly pretty decent pared down version of Street Fighter 4. A couple of Tom Clancy's games in The Sims 3. I mean, that is so fucking weak. No wonder they didn't sell anywhere near what they wanted to. But of course, when they dropped the price, all the people who'd already bought it, like myself, who were rightly pissed off, they gave us the old ambassador program, and we got 10 free NES games and 10 free Game Boy Advance games.
Any of them? Can we? maybe not liking them is wrong, but like I didn't spend any particular any significant time with any of them. I don't think, unless I've forgotten. The best thing about that console for me was Game Pass and New Super Mario Brothers, I think. Oh, and
Street Pass for sure. So we got Super Mario Bros, Donkey Kong Jr., Balloon Fight, Ice Climber, Zelda, Metroid, Golf, Wrecking Crew, Zelda 2, and Yoshi for the NES.
Yeah, didn't
and then for the Game Boy Advance, I played a bit of Mario Bros, I think, back in the day, but yeah, that was about it. And then the Game Boy Advance games we got were F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Yoshi's Island, which was Mario Advance 3, Minish Cap, brilliant game, a Fire Emblem game, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Mario Kart Super Circuit, one of the worst Mario Karts, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, WarioWare, Metroid Fusion, which is a great game, and Wario Land 4, which is a pretty good game as well. So that was all right. It was just a really weak start after. Again, the DS all conquering crazy sales, like sold more than the Wii, the DS, which is nuts to think about. And then
with price and launch lineup, is that what did them?
I guess the price. I don't know if they just. I don't know if the price was necessarily that egregious. They just didn't sell any, so they just thought, "Fuck, what do we do?" And just they had to drop the price to try and get people to buy into something that, again, was still marketing itself on promises and hopes and dreams of, "Oh yeah, but it will have some good games." This is very PS3 again, but it did eventually have some really good games, and I love.
It's funny
3DS.
That is like an absolute Thinking back, you're reminding me of what a disastrous launch that appeared to be.
Yeah.
But what a genuinely loved console that is looked back upon. That's probably one of the all-timers. People love that console.
Yeah, I mean, it got near. I think it went to about nearly 60 million units in the end, which obviously is very good. But it's not, it's not a patch. It's not even half the DS's number of units. So, something of a failure, I guess. But a console that I think a lot of people still have a lot of love for.
Yeah, I feel like I might appreciate it more in 2025 than I did in its day.
You know, and there's a console that absolutely does backwards compatibility right. There's nothing you know. You buy a 3DS, you've got the DS library at your fingertips, and everything is region unlocked. So yeah, fucking magic. It has to be an S, doesn't it?
It's got to be.
Hugely disappointing, but we hugged it out and we got there in the end.
Yeah, I mean, like to try and sort of like parse out the frustration. I think again for me, like I didn't get the value out of those games. I can sort of appreciate retrospectively and abstractly that those games, perhaps that they gave away, there's some quality in there, but I definitely didn't make use of them. It was a little bit of a middle finger to me that I paid full price for it, and then they just dropped the price because it didn't do very well. I was sort of one of the early adopters that, again, you've got to try and support these people that are going out on a limb for your company. But ultimately, it did become a great console, so just don't listen to Audrey Drake, because she used to drive me mad during that period.
Yeah. She was, and then she got a job there, right?
She did, into the treehouse. She still works in the treehouse.
I don't think she does, from what I could tell when we last tried to look her up. Right, next up. Speaking of the 3DS is one of the sort of bastions of the online store closure that is a huge disappointment, I think. So far, we've had the 3DS, the Wii U, and the 360 stores closed. Sony teased and threatened it, but after fan backlash, have thus far backed off from closing down the PS Vita and PS3 stores. But yeah, Nintendo closed down the 3DS and Wii U stores on the 27th of March 2023, and they said this is part of the natural life cycle for any product line as it becomes less used by consumers over time. We are providing this notice more than a year in advance, so users will have plenty of time to prepare. Then last year, on the 8th of April, they shut down all online services for Wii U and 3DS software. So now you can't play those online, and any functionality that uses online communication, like online co-op or rankings or data distribution, gone. The only thing you can do on those machines now is re-download previously purchased games and DLC, which is basically all you can do for the 360 store as well, which closed in July 2024. You can't buy anything on those either. You can download and play previously purchased ones. And like I said, Sony threatened it in 2021, but their reasoning apparently was commerce support challenges, whatever that means. But they relented. So it's still alive, the PS3 store, but it's not as easy to use as it used to be. You can't use credit cards or PayPal to purchase games directly. You have to add funds to your PlayStation Network wallet by using a gift card or whatever on the internet to then give yourself a balance that then you can use on the console itself. You can't buy games off a website, but you have to use a website to put funds into your. It's fucking totally dumb the way that functions now, but it's at least still there. What do you think this means for game preservation, David?
It's awful. I don't understand. The thing I don't understand is obviously because I've never had eyes on any of the contracts. I just don't understand why, like, there can't be a little clause in the contract unless there's any sort of manifest change, i.e., Sony become a child porn distributor. Like, why they can't just roll, you know, it's like if our gaming store, unless our gaming store goes through some sort of manifest change, i.e. completely changes its focus, we'll just keep rolling your games into our future stores. I don't understand why you can't just do that. I do not understand.
Yeah, that hurts the developers as well, right? I mean,
yeah. Like, what is it's obviously a contract.
By the way, we might not be selling your game in a few years.
Yeah. It's obviously a contractual reason, but I don't understand. It cannot be beyond the wit of man that this is not an insurmountable task. And I understand because we live in capitalism, a capitalist society. Like, Sony don't care about things that they can't make money from. But I don't think it's that much of a drain on their, like, there's not a drain on their bottom line to just keep these things going.
Can't be. It can't be. I mean, Nintendo is still swimming in money.
Yeah.
Especially now that they've got the Switch around. And for them to just be like, oh yeah, but it's just natural, isn't it? You can't have it anymore. Sorry.
And the idea that like these online stores are going to go away, and when they started these online stores, the idea that the people were naive enough to think that these things weren't going to be needed in the future is just, I don't believe them. I don't believe them. I mean, it's pure and simple business. They feel like they don't make enough money out of it anymore, so they don't care. And
100%, yeah.
I don't make any money out of Sony. I don't have a business interest in these companies. I have an emotional interest in these companies, and my emotional interest is as an attachment to preservation of the video games industry. And yes, Sony and Nintendo specifically are two of the biggest offenders when it comes to just not giving a shit about their own stuff. Nintendo less so because they keep selling old rope to us again and again and again. But Sony are probably the worst of the lot. This is like the big offense to me, I think, on this list that I'm looking at of games that of topics that we're going to cover. But I will never forgive them for it. But can it be a D? Because ultimately I'm going to keep engaging in these marketplaces and I'm going to keep buying their games. So I think
which we have done,
unforgivable. But I still keep sort of tacitly approving of it by engaging, because I mean, like, what other option do I have to not play games, which is not going to happen? I think it gives me I think got increasingly less sympathy for piracy as these sort of things go on.
Yeah, I could not agree more about that. That what are we supposed to do at this point? And yet it was another one I was probably going to get to, but we won't have time for tonight, was Nintendo's like litigious just rampage across any ROM sites or fan games. Just, what do you want us to do? Like, the only one I can almost forgive is the 360 store shutting down, because Microsoft has obviously made a lot of 360 games work and be available to play on the Series X. Not all of them, not even close to all of them, but a good amount of decent stuff.
Invested time and effort in trying to. And I think there was
on the worst performing console as well. Like they have still backed it up and left it backed up by this backwards compatibility that they're giving you as part of a subscription service, despite being firmly in third place, whereas the other two just can't be asked with doing it properly.
And I don't know whether it's a sort of get out of jail free card, but now that sort of modern consoles are glorified PCs with different operating systems, it feels like there's less excuse now for games to be perpetually available, whereas like the 360 era and the OG Xbox era and the PS3 to an extent even more so, because it was on such different architecture. I understand that there's more work to that. But that's decisions these companies made. So you made your bed, lie in it. Yeah. This is a different one to categorize for me.
Yeah. The worst thing about Nintendo as well. Yeah. Like Nintendo, we're talking about two pieces of hardware here that cannot be replicated. Like they are so bespoke.
About Nintendo. It sort of annoys me, and I'm sort of fascinated by it, but also like angered by it, because, like, sorry to interrupt you, but I'll just get this in now. Like, I'll shut up and let you make your point. There's part of me is as cool as the DS and the 3DS are. There's a big part of me that suspects that part of the reason Nintendo did that is because it's hard to pirate, and because they've done that, we are now losing games that were forever, essentially.
Yeah,
because you
exactly.
Like, even if you pirate those games, they're not playable, really. In any
they're certainly not playable on the hardware. Exactly. Yeah, you can't really.
After you, if you try and preserve it or pirate it, or
if you just try and buy a second-hand copy that they make fuck all money from themselves anyway, you're paying like £100 for some of them. Whereas you could have downloaded it for a more reasonable price. But the only way to get it now is second-hand. Or
Nintendo with their gimmicks is partly linked to piracy measures.
probably.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was there a point you were?
That's all right. It was just the fact that the hardware you can't just be like, right, don't worry though, we'll bring out 3DS games on the Switch too. You can play them. Well, I can't though because you've got one screen, so I can't play them, can I?
My dream would be that there was some sort of compulsion for these stores to be kept alive, or there was some sort of preservation society that Nintendo were like, right, we're not making enough money. For example, the two things I would like to see, and maybe we'll probably never see it, but in an ideal world, Nintendo are like, right, we've hit whatever box on a spreadsheet that we're now not making enough money and we want to close down the 3DS store. And then some sort of preservation society that could be publicly funded would go, right, well, we'll take it over and keep it running for you. And in addition to that, when you want to close down the store, you give up your legal rights to exclusive manufacturing in the console so that we can have people making, like, privately making, like, emulated 3DS. So you could buy, like, an emulated, like, other companies could pop up and start manufacturing their own 3DS consoles that you can then connect to the marketplace and buy, because Nintendo clearly don't care about it. So if you don't want it, give it away.
Yeah.
And we'll take over, and the community will take over, and the community would take over and run this.
Yeah, I was about to say, we've seen it enough times to know that they would,
And I don't see why we can't do something like that, because it doesn't. I don't see how that impacts Nintendo's current business in any way. It just gives people access to libraries of games that should be preserved, because gaming history is important, no matter what it is. Anyway, spot on, my friend. Because to me, it's like
I would say,
but
D.
Ultimately, I'm still engaging in these practices. Yeah, it probably.
Yeah, let's put it in C.
My disappointment is immeasurable. My day is ruined.
Yes.
Often. I'm still going to keep coming back to get slapped in the face again.
I'll tell you where you're probably not going to go back to. And, it's a good job that even with all these digital storefronts shutting down, it's a good job we've got a robust retail, high street retail market in this country, isn't it? Oh, wait, no, because game ruined everything. One thing I didn't realise, I used to think that Game bought Electronics Boutique and fucking ruined it, but it's actually the other way around. So a brief history of the shit that is Game.
Game Station was so much better than Game before Game bought them.
Yes, absolutely was. Game Station was the tits. So they were actually founded as the company that went on to become Game was founded in 1992 as Rhino Group, which is terrible. They had stores known as Future Zone, and I do not remember that. But again, 92, I was 6, so in 95, October 95, Electronics Boutique, which I believe was an American company, they acquired 25% of the Rhino Group. And then they changed the name of that to Electronics Boutique Limited under license from the business in America. In 99, in November, they purchased a chain of retail outlets known as Game, from which the current name is derived, for £99 million.
I was Googling Future Zone.
Oh, right. So in November 1999, Electronics Boutique Limited, which was also the new name of Rhino Group, they purchased a chain of retail outlets known as Game, which is obviously where the current name comes from, and that was for £99 million. And then in 2002, Electronics Boutique stores in the UK and Ireland were rebranded as Game, and the company name was changed to the Game Group.
Because we had an EB in the town I grew up in, Stonehaven. It didn't sell any games.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it didn't sell any games. So it sold Furbies, VCRs, and TVs.
What? Weird.
DVD players.
I remember, and I don't know where it was, but I definitely remember an Electronics Boutique somewhere near me. It might have been Bedford or something, but I remember I used to love going in that shop. But yeah, it's weird because Electronics Boutique bought Game, but then decided that Game was better and sort of changed everything to Game. Yeah. So in 2004, it acquired Gameplay, which was a website that I remember buying from back in the day. But that's basically what they turned into game.co.uk. In May 2007, they announced the acquisition of Game Station for £74 million. Yeah, but at that point in time,
Gameplay redirects now to Fraser Group, which then is a redirect to Game.
I'm afraid to say yes. The Fraser Group is, of course, Mike Ashley.
Yeah, good old Mike Ashley.
Yeah, yeah. They stated when they.
Sorry, Game doesn't even sell games on its front page right now. It does have games on it. To be fair, I'm not trying to be
Right. Okay.
It's got Doom: The Dark Ages, Expedition 33, Buy Now. It's got something called Fraser Plus, which unlocks early access to sale. £0 to pay today. Choose to pay in 3. Okay, so that's a loan system, and it's selling Lego. It's not even really selling games that much.
Okay.
Anyway,
right.
Sorry.
I'm sure the Funkos are somewhere on the website. If you take a few more seconds to find them, they'll be there.
Still a thing, Funkos?
I think so.
Oh my God.
Yeah, when they bought GameStation, they apparently stated that they intended to retain the brand, which sounds very much like WWE when they bought WCW, what they said as well. And like them, they dropped it. Yeah, that was in 2012. So they kept it for 5 years and then just dropped it. Okay. Then in 2012, in February, they announced that both Game and GameStation would no longer stock new titles from EA because EA had concerns or they'd limited games credit. I think a lot of people had issues with games creditability at this point, and they didn't want to lend them any more credit or give them any more time to pay them back. So EA noped out and took all their games away. Then Capcom did the same in March 2012, so a month later. Microsoft and Activision stopped sending games to Game on the 15th of March 2012. I don't remember this, but it happened. But I don't remember them all pulling their games from Game, but they obviously did.
No.
So what's that? The 15th of March, Microsoft and Activision did that, and then just over a week and a bit later, they entered administration. 277 of their 609 stores were immediately closed. Over 2,000 job losses. June 2019.
Administration. It was them and HMV.
That long ago as well.
Because they sort of, I in my head, when a company like Woolworths enters administration, it's like, oh, it's the beginning and the end. But like HMV, I don't know, games seem to be stumbling on somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So in June 2019, they got taken over by the Frasers Group, which you just mentioned a minute ago, for £52 million. Obviously, Mike Ashley's all his nonsense. So they've now basically closed down most of the standalone game stores, and they've basically reopened them as concessions inside House of Fraser, Sports Direct, Brand Max, and Lillywhite stores. So of its 364... Do you? Okay, so you're one of the 64 left standalone out of the 363 that are still in this country. And in January last year, 2024, they said they were going to phase out trade-ins and pre-owned games by February. And in June last year, they announced they would end its reward point scheme in July of that year. So it is basically just... what even is it now?
Yeah,
nothing. Just a stand in the corner of a Sports Direct.
Yeah, it sells a lot of plushies, D&D stuff, board games. Not very many games. I don't know. It's sad.
Look,
it's sad, but
we can feel somewhat
manufacturers, right?
Well, we can somewhat feel sorry for them because obviously online commerce just killed them dead. They brick and mortar stores just got done in. I mean, it's the same in many industries. It's just a shame that this had happened to Game after Game had kind of eaten up purer, more fun places.
Supermarkets. So like, the things that I remember that started pulling me away from GameStation, I guess, would be my favourite to go to, because I used to spend a lot of time in those shops just staring at games. But I guess the two things is like Asda and stuff started like getting in on the Call of Duty market. So they'd be like, oh, we'll open up at midnight and sell Call of Duty for 30 quid and just undercutting Game and things.
I remember that. Yeah, I went to one of those in Aberdeen actually.
And then the other thing that jumps to mind is like there was a good period of time where like play.com would send, if you pre-ordered a game, you would always get it pre-release, so you get like 24 or 48 hours before the game officially came out. Which, why would you not? You're probably paying a little bit less for it, and it's getting delivered to your door before the release date. That's like, yeah, that was magic.
Yeah. It's nice to see that there is something of a strong sort of like cottage industry in this country of retro game stores that seems to be sprouting up and
it's scummy,
somewhat thriving.
Yeah, as scummy as they look, I am thankful every day for CEX.
and they still, you're right, they're still there as well. With with all the secondhand goodness of So I suppose we do still have that. There's something so like just kind of sterile and uninviting about CEX. It's just there's no aesthetic connection to games. It's just here's shelves of plastic cases that like come in and get your shit, come and get your crack money, give us your phone.
It's exactly it. You don't feel like you're part of something. You're searching a bunch of personality devoid shelves of interesting things, I guess, and then a bunch of DVDs, which are, I don't understand why someone must buy those things.
I guess so, but it's just like you feel like you're sort of like fucking Oliver Twist going up to get some fucking lunch in CEX, don't you? You're like, oh please sir, I want some more pre-owned games, but I've got nowhere else to go. It's just this, I have to come here to you. It's a shame. I miss the time that we lived in when high street video game shops were booming. It was a purer and simpler time. I definitely can't complain that the convenience of just going on Amazon or getting a digital copy of something and having it very, very, very quickly without having to move off my arse is good. But I don't know if the monkey's paw was really worth it. I just wish we had some cool game shops that had a bit of retro and had some like current stuff and little those demo booths and like magazines and strategy guides and all that kind of cool shit. Like that was awesome.
It's often the thing I lament about this, and that like our hobby that obviously that you and I specifically, I guess, sort of dedicated our lives to, without sounding too dramatic, is like, because it's such an inherently, in many cases, solo hobby, there are things that are few and far between that sort of, if you're a sort of Joe Blogs video game player, that brings you together and makes you feel like you're part of a community. Very often you're sort of off in a corner playing video games on your own in a dark room or not speaking to people. And obviously, like, it's something we periodically talk about with this podcast, is that I'd be eternally grateful with that conversation you and I had with Joe and Andy after an exam about video games, because I realised there was someone else at my uni that shared an interest in video games on the sort of same, I don't want to sound like a twat, but on the same level as I did. And the thing about these, you're talking about like magazines and like these physical things, and it's something that, like, I understand why they're never like gaming cafes are never really successful, but I wish they were. It's because it's something something that would pull people out of their sort of solo activities into a place where you can meet other people that are of like-minded individuals and share a passion for this thing that we all love. And brick and mortar video game stores were another outlet for that. I would go to the stores so much that you get to know the staff behind the desk, and there was just this physical building that contained physical items that made your hobby feel like it was real and that you were part of something. Whereas obviously now, we've sort of, for whatever reason, some good, some bad, given that up and gone almost fully digital. It does feel like we've lost that in some way. And you're right, like, as cool as CEX is and is like stand up a job it does at keeping this sort of retro market alive, you don't get that from that place. It is just crackheads and people that don't wash very often wandering around
Yeah.
looking for a bargain. So, yeah, so I'm very sad about it, and I sort of lament it.
Yeah.
And probably always will. And it's why I'm loath to sort of put it down to just being you're old. You're just sort of hearkening back to the old days. I don't think it's that. I think it's just, I feel like as a gaming society, we've lost something.
I agree. Yeah.
What do you think it is?
So where do you think this goes? I mean, we can't really stay together for the kids because I'm never going in a game store ever again.
No.
Well, we go in the alternative,
I'm not prepared
but
to get into Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Even though
No.
I've got plenty of them. You see a couple over my shoulder.
I think it goes C because although they suck and it was the worst one to survive, it's not 100% their fault that they are where they are.
No,
I just wish they hadn't bought up everything else before doing so.
They are a product of the modern marketplace, right? It's what we're sad about is that consumer behaviors have changed to the extent that like Game Station and stuff like that isn't a viable business model as it was.
And I think in their attempts to stay viable throughout the like noughties and 2010s, their main source of income being pre-owned games kind of just really fucked off the license holders and the publishers, and made them not want to keep these outlets alive because it was actively harming them. I don't know how you would have found a happy medium there.
When you're paying all your staff off, but you're giving your executives like multiple tens of millions. Bonuses. I struggle to have sympathy for them. It's the same old. We've got to charge £80 for your games, but we're going to go and give blah 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 100 million quid as a bonus. Like fuck off. You don't. You choose. You don't have to. You're choosing to. Is what this boils down to.
Feel free to put that Microsoft one in your list, by the way. A company that's worth trillions of dollars trying to say that they have to charge us $80 for a game. I'm not having that.
I don't believe it. Expedition
Total bollocks.
Exists.
Yeah.
I need a quick.
I remember. Okay. 2 more to go.
Okay. Okay. What's next, Alex?
Next up, we have the death of games magazines, which is kind of going alongside what we've just talked about. Still a bummer. Yep.
I'm on a one-man mission to try and keep those alive. I now buy I buy 3 video game magazines every month. And then they'll say,
what's the third one?
PC Gamer is quite good.
You buy PC Gamer?
Even if you don't play PC games, there are some good articles in there. It's a good sort of generalist magazine. Yeah, I would recommend you giving it a go.
I will absolutely see if I can find the good old subscription deal for them. See if I can get a couple of issues and see what they're like.
Try. Yeah, even if you don't like it, just don't buy it again. But yeah, I quite enjoy the articles. It's a well written mag and some interesting stuff. It sort of bridges the gap between like lowest common. Like if Edge is top tier, like twiddling your mustache. I don't know, something like Retro Gamer is just like Joe Schmo. We like games. This sits somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're so fucking, you're so spot on. Like I was just about to say, I buy Retro Gamer every now and again. I just have a massive collection of them, so I could probably stop buying them because they're not topical. So I could just go back and read all those old ones and be satisfied for years.
Yeah.
And then, but I do often find that the writing in those is not very personality driven. No. It seems to be trying to be very careful about.
It feels very formulaic.
What it says. It does.
A lot of
no, I think I agree with that.
Just follows a particular format, and they like a cliche in a way that feels. I feel like feels like lazy writing. Like we're beyond that. We can do better than this.
Yeah. I am often disappointed. I'm often very excited by the covers and the contents pages of a Retro Gamer, and then I get to the meat of it, and I think like that wasn't really a very satisfying read.
Yes, I'm sort of slowly making my way through them at the moment, and I've just sort of read the big PS2 one, and I was like, yeah, it didn't fill me with PS2 glee. It was just a bunch of like 40-somethings. Going, oh, hey, remember when we did that? Oh, yeah, remember when we did that? Remember when I saved 6 meg of memory doing that?
Yeah, they get good access, but they don't necessarily always use it very well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, as you say, you've got Edge that I do subscribe to because I like their reviews a lot. The rest of the content in Edge magazines just feels so essayed, and like it's all trying to get into the minutiae of the thought process behind a game. I mean, like I think I've just kind of always found that somewhat boring, unless it's like a particularly interesting group of people. Again, a personality, a Blazinski, Romero, those kind of things I'm interested to read about. But when Edge is just sort of like talking to some guy about like Magic the Gathering for 8 pages, it's just, I just don't care.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what I like is, it probably reflects my own writing actually, but what I enjoy is like if someone's got a story to tell or a point to make, they sort of construct the article around the point, make a point, go off and tell a story, and then bring the story back to the point. Is what I sort of enjoy. Whereas like I was reading an Edge article recently, and it was literally quoting, it was going, and blah 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 states in blah 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 paper, and it was like a fucking university essay. Like it just felt so like that, and I was but you're right, the reviews are shit hot. I feel like there's not many better reviews sources out there in a way that will use their scales, will give honest and frank opinions of games. They won't get carried away with hype very often. They'll just, I agree with you in terms of the reviews.
Yeah. The hype thing is spot on. Like they feel like such a worthwhile mag to trust because their own scoring system actually means something, and a 6 in there doesn't mean the game's shit, but a 6 from IGN means it's fucking terrible. But they're just not afraid to use the whole scale, and they get talented people to discuss games. I just don't necessarily care for all this, because there's so much more of that mag dedicated to like the culture of it that I'm just not as interested in. Not as much as I was, for example. We're going to run through a list of everything we've lost. I might play some like, some in memoriam music that they do at the Oscars for all of these. But Games TM, which is probably my favorite multi-format magazine of all time. That lasted from 2002 to 2018. Yeah. I actually stopped reading Games TM when I found that a friend of mine from school was a contributor to it, and I was too jealous of him to want to read it ever again. So not bitter. But a great magazine.
I can. As much as I hate like this. If this is a like leave the ego at the door time, like. Yeah, I get that. I get that. It's hard when someone ends up doing something you love and you're a lot younger and you're just like, oh, you can't.
Yeah. Like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
How comes I'm not doing that? I'm better than you. I went to uni. You didn't. Yeah. And all that kind of self-entitled shit. That was great, though. That was like, it had fun content in it. It had good reviews. It had good access. And it had a great retro section in it as well. It just had everything, that magazine. Games Master, that also had everything. That went from 93 to 2018. They shut both those down at the same time. Oh yeah, that's the TV show though.
Oh, it's just I did start reading it.
Yeah,
a Sega Mania bookmark in here. I made it.
Very nice.
Anyway, carry on.
Play magazine has a bit of a weird timeline.
Play was great.
I never really.
Play was one of my top twos.
Oh, nice. So that initially went from 1995 to 2016. And the OPM, the official PlayStation magazine, was running from 95 till 2021. But in 2021, Future bought Imagine Publishing, and they resurrected Play to replace official PlayStation magazine in 2021. So Play went from 95 to 2016, then had a gap and came back in 2021 to replace the official mag, but then they closed that in October of last year.
Oh, bummer.
PSM 2 and PSM 3 were, again, PlayStation mags. You can figure out what they were for. October 2000 to December 2012. Nintendo Gamer, my beloved, that had so many iterations. That was Super Play from 92 to 96, N64 magazine from 97 to 2001, NGC from 01 to 06, N-Gamer till Jan 2012, and then Nintendo Gamer just from January 2012 to August 2012. And I know that I talk about the Backpage Pod a lot on this show, but yeah, Matthew Castle was the editor of that. At the time that Nintendo Gamer went, and then he went over to O&M, the official Nintendo magazine, which had been going again from like 1992. That closed in 2014. And then we had OXM, the official Xbox magazine, where Matthew Castle went after O&M closed to be the editor. That was November 2001 to April 2020. And X360, which I used to fucking love, X360 magazine.
That was the other one. I was sitting here looking at it going, I hope he mentions it. X360 was my goat.
Yeah, that was the number one, UK's number one selling independent dedicated 360 and later Xbox One magazine. It went from 2005 to 2013 as X360 and then as X1 from 2013 to 2015. But all of them are now dead. And as David and I have obviously said before this, all that we have left really is PC Gamer, Edge, and Retro Gamer. I don't think we've got anything else in this country other than the independent scene, which I'm very pleased to be a part of still. I also support, as a part of, I'm part of Sega Mania, was a part of Sega Force Mega. I also support Switch Player. I just bought their latest issue the other day, and they did like a 25 best GBA games, little magazine, like a bookazine. I bought that. And then when I was looking at our Kickstarter for Sega Mania issue 9, I saw at the bottom a recommended Kickstarter for a PlayStation magazine. So I bought that as well. I pledged towards that latest issue. That looks like a pretty cool magazine as well. Like, it's all a bit of retro PlayStation, bit of PS5 in there. So going to give that one a try and see what that's like as well. So there's a thriving indie scene, but I really miss. It ties in with the golden age of game stores. I miss the golden age of games magazines because I used to just sample everything. I used to buy so many. I loved Games Master, Games TM, the N Gamer ones, the 360 ones. I even bought the official Nintendo one when that was the only one left. The official Xbox I bought as well. Like I just loved them. It sucks that they're gone because look what it's replaced by. Websites these days are basically a pile of shit.
Yeah.
And so where do we go to now? YouTube, right? YouTube videos and fucking influencers. Like I said, what a sorry state of affairs. The artistry in it is totally gone. I love the written word about a game, but you just don't get it these days.
The thing I've been enjoying dabbling with is the sort of coffee table slow journalism.
Yes, fair. Yeah.
This is an On magazine. I enjoyed reading that. I've already pre-ordered.
I'm still waiting for the second one of that. Yeah, taking a long time.
Ago. And the other one that I've been dabbling in, I've not read enough of it to have a proper opinion on. The Profound Waste of Time seems to be like it's okay, but yeah, like I said, it's been sitting under a pile of magazines that I keep needing to read, so I will get to it eventually. But yeah, I'm interested in these sort of coffee table things you can keep. Like you're talking about the retro gamer ones. Like it's probably the magazine that I will keep that every month, whereas I might not keep an Edge or a PC Gamer because they're a bit more
agreed
critical. Whereas you can pick up a retro gamer at any point and find something in it worth looking at.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
Right. It's very sad about the current state of the video games industry with those. So I mean, like we'll see what happens with Giant Bomb now that they've been sort of bought by the staff. Polygon dying. I mean, I wasn't a Polygon reader, but it was probably one of the last bastions of big style, not IGN, not GameSpot video game sites. And yes, the state of the content is just becoming. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it and there's a place for it, but it's these sort of personality-led, let's play games and then have chats while the games are playing. There's less like proper journalism happening. There's less like the thing I liked about Giant Bomb in its heyday was like they would go like a new game would come out and a quick look would come out of the game. And you can sit and watch that. Whereas now, like the sort of people that are behind that, obviously Jeff Gerstmann does his own thing, but the Nextlander a lot. What they do is they have a grab bag. Whereas on like a Monday night, they'll just each pick a few games and they'll play some games while they do the quick look format and just sort of, or like, what was it, Unprofessional Friday format, and they'll just play games. So it's hard. It's like, oh, these are people I like. How do I get them to speak about this specific game? That sort of stuff doesn't really exist anymore because it's all personality stuff now, which I think is I don't know, it's a shame.
It definitely will sound sort of slightly snobbish, I guess, but I just don't think outside of the Giant Bomb podcast, and you know they did revolutionize sort of gaming video content about gaming.
I mean, they were Patreon, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I still have found that it's just something that's not as satisfying from the American games media, which is what was dominating the online landscape, as there is about the British games media, because we have a very much like with comedy. I think we have like a real history of it. Like I mentioned way back at the beginning of this podcast, the Mean Machine stuff for the Sega. The Mega Drive age, like we have a style and an attitude and a way of writing about games in this country that has sort of a different kind of personality drive to it, where it's not, you can feel the personality of the writer and feel like you're getting to know them without them expressly just sort of talking about themselves, which is what current games media sort of feels like. Everyone's got an agenda or some politics or a personal experience or whatever. Whereas nothing's just kind of fun anymore. It's all sterile corporate stuff, which I think a lot of people have complained about from the waning days of the written press about games in this country, is how it got very, very corporate, and the push as well to sort of develop online alongside print media just really kind of fucked with the content that they were actually able to put out. The quality suffered as a result. So I just like nothing better than reading like a classic British games magazine with that kind of wit and sarcasm and attitude that we used to get, that you don't get anymore unless, well, I like to think, unless you read something that I'm a part of, because I'm with like-minded people who love that as well. But you certainly can't buy it in Smith's.
No, you cannot.
This one then, I would again, the way that I've created these tiers doesn't necessarily work from a sense perspective for every description. It is incredibly disappointing, but I guess, is this a B? Because we're sticking by whatever's left, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that.
You think?
We're just fighting against a tide. The only reason, yeah, I agree. Because again, we've spoken about the magazines that we keep buying, and we don't sort of universally love these magazines. We're just sort of trying to support them as best we can because they are a dying breed of something that we miss. So I think that's
exactly.
That's a fair point. That's a fair categorization, I would say. Sorry.
Very nice. Right, the last one for today then is I used to love reading about in Cool Games magazines. I used to like reading about Nintendo IPs that I really like, but they don't necessarily always exist these days because Nintendo's treatment of some of them, Metroid, F-Zero, Star Fox primarily, has been very confusing and heavy-handed in recent years. So if we start with Metroid, like it's definitely been, this is the one that's had the most sort of a redemption with, bangers like Metroid Dread and hopefully Metroid Prime 4. But Metroid Prime 4, which is coming out this year, 2025, was announced in 2017 at E3, which is 8 years ago. It had actually been on hiatus since the divisive Metroid Other M was released in 2010 for the Wii. So by the time the announcement dropped for Metroid Prime Federation Force at E3 2015, people went fucking mental. Like that was just a real kick in the dick to Metroid fans when they brought out this like weird chibi art style 3DS squad shooty thing that had absolutely nothing about what Metroid should be about it, and obviously did terribly in sales and critically as well. F-Zero. Since F-Zero GX released for the GameCube and F-Zero Climax for the GBA, which I've never played, that was in 2004, we had no F-Zero games at all until F-Zero 99 in 2023, which I'm not even sure counts, but there we go. That's a near 20-year hiatus. Outside of things like Captain Falcon in Smash Bros. Or the F-Zero minigame in Nintendo Land for the Wii U, or some tracks in Mario Kart 8, that's basically it. And they've actually just come out and sort of said some bullshit about F-Zero, like the collaboration we had and the results with Sega found myself at a bit of a loss as how we can take the franchise further. They were saying that in 2003 before it had even come out. And then in 2023, one of the former artists, Takaya Imamura, just said the popularity of Mario Kart is a reason why they haven't done any new things with F-Zero. I mean, what? Two things can exist, mate. Like, better not. Mario Kart's going to be, it doesn't have to. But I think at least that last game we have of F-Zero is great, and coming to Switch 2 in the whatever it is, GameCube, Nintendo Switch Online. Star Fox has just been getting worse and worse as time's gone on. You had Star Fox Adventures in 2002 for the GameCube, which I think was the last game Rare developed for Nintendo, and it was the beginning of their downfall as a developer. I think it was initially meant to be Dinosaur Planet on the N64, but that got cancelled by Nintendo, and they basically just converted it into a Star Fox game. But it's just got melee combat and dinosaurs in it. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Star Fox Assault on the GameCube in 2005 is like a hybrid of R-Wing space shooting stuff, but it also has lots of third-person on-foot combat. It was developed by Namco. The on-foot sections kill the game. They are terrible. They've got horrible controls, an even worse camera. It's got 67 on Metacritic. Then they had Star Fox Command the year later on the DS, which was more faithful, but developed by somebody called Q Games. I have no idea who they are. But it was on underpowered hardware on the DS. It just didn't have much going for it. It tried, but it just was a bit weak. Star Fox Zero on the Wii U is probably the most egregious, which was the one that started off. Apparently they had some assets left over from the 2008 Wii game that they never actually bothered to finish. Then it went through development hell. Platinum came in to try and take it over, but what released was like a bland, ugly, surprisingly boring game from considering it's Star Fox and Platinum Games. And it had the worst control system I think ever made, with the gamepad that you have to look at the screen of the gamepad to like see something that you're aiming at, and while the game carries on playing on the TV. Just awful stuff. That has a 69 on Metacritic, so it's only slightly better than the GameCube one. And they also released Star Fox Guard, which is a tower defense game. Again, has Platinum involved. it was bundled as a separate disc for the first edition of Star Fox Zero, and then was like a Wii U eShop game after that. Actually has a better Metacritic than the fucking actual Star Fox game that Platinum made. But Jesus Christ, I mean, that series needs just make something really kick ass on Switch too. Surely it can't be that hard to make a good on rail shooter that's like 30 quid
as well. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that you're not a massive fan of these franchises, so it's
you've just
probably not hurt you as much.
You've
but
explained why I'm not, though. Like,
well, yeah. What have you had to play? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of dabbled in these games in the SNES days, and then there's just been nothing since. You're right. There's for a company that's got such a plethora of IPs, the amount of untapped IPs versus the stuff they will just keep banging out is, I assume it is just a market research, how much money can we make from these things. But again, these things don't need to be big budget. It's a Smeagly thing. It's the old classic Nintendo, probably the same attitude that leads them to be as litigious as they are. It's just like, oh, this is mine. I'm not going to let I'm not going to let anyone else develop it or try their hand or try and do
unless it's Star Fox. Anybody can have a go. Pull out any old shit.
But yeah, I'm not. But you can't either. It seems to be their attitude. It's a bummer because there's obviously you've got a lot of affection for these games, but because they're just a complete affection vacuum that Nintendo has for these games apparently means that I can't get into them necessarily.
And then you know, their absence is felt even more strongly when every time like for certain Nintendo fans, especially people like me who've been playing it for so long, so emotionally invested in the Nintendo gaming as a brand, just with every announcement of like a fucking Tomodachi bollocks, or here's a board game of Animal Crossing, or here's another Mario Party. It's like, why? Yeah, why do you hate me? I don't understand.
I think it's so funny. I used to sort of joke about this when you and I first started talking about video games, but I guess like I've been around long enough that we've all been kicked in the nuts enough times, but it was so sort of funny / tragic watching you because you clearly had this love for Nintendo that Nintendo just didn't have for you during that sort of...
So every E3, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just like...
how'd you feel about that one? Just
kicking the nuts.
Disappointed.
I've never seen a man so consistently kicked in the nuts over and over again by one single company in my life as Nintendo do to you on a repeated basis. Yeah, you keep coming back for more.
Yeah, that's why this one has to be B tier, right? I have to stay together for the kids because they will stop abusing me one day. I can change them.
Laugh anymore because a lot of the series I love are just getting ready to kick me in the nuts as well. But yeah, it was just like there was a period of time where it was like, oh, what's Alex's two biggest things? Resident Evil and Nintendo, and they were just absolutely like languishing in the road of filth at the bottom of the barrel for like a good number of years.
Yeah,
at least Resident Evil sorted itself out. It's moved on from the Resident.
I mean, I'm sure Resi 6 could definitely be brought up at some point.
We're due a remaster for that, so
yeah,
here it comes.
Yeah.
Is this a state?
But kids? Yeah, it has to be. I mean, it's kind of. Hopefully, that's worked in my favor for fucking Metroid. At least we got 1 out of the 3 there.
Yeah. But yeah, don't worry. I'll get my comeuppance. I'm sure we'll talk about BioWare's treatment of their RPGs like Mass Effect and Dragon Age soon enough.
Yeah. But so that then at this stage, after this first 10, which hopefully you can see at this point on the video. That's the state that we're at currently.
Yeah, so
for our
what's our D tier? We've got Diddy Kong Racing, poor Diddy on his own.
Diddy Kong Racing DS, yeah.
C tier, we've got the Connect. We've got the closing of online stores. Is that right with the eShop?
Yep.
And we've got game buying all the good shops and then being rubbish. In C. In B, we've got Rare as a, what did we say? Rare after Nintendo sold them.
Since they let, yeah.
And we've also in B, we have the death of gaming magazines, as well as, I can't tell what
Nintendo's treatment of their IPs.
There we go. A tier, we have the PS3, and our S tier. What did we call this podcast again?
We've got we've got Sega leaving the hardware market and the launch and subsequent price drop of the 3DS.
Yes. Yeah, and that's it. This is an interesting one. Is that I feel like our list is inverted, as in the sort of the big boys are the D tier, whereas the not so bad ones are S tier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the stuff that I didn't get to today was things like Nintendo shutting down ROM sites and fan games, the Mario All Stars since the SNES one, the death of E3. We got Jeff Keighley in the Game Awards, Fallout 76, the demise of Pro Evolution Soccer, Mighty Number 9, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, the cancellation of Titanfall 3, and modern consoles requiring a performance mode to not run like shit, and then they still do anyway.
And they still do.
But that's for another time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was a good podcast, Alex. Thanks for all that work you did.
Pleasure.
Next up, we'll either have Mario Galaxy 2 or Castlevania Lords of Shadow, I think.
Yes.
Be correct in saying.
Yes.
So look out for one of those on the way. And I guess on that note, we've reached the end of another episode. If you liked what you heard, and if you didn't, why not give our numbers a bump by subscribing to us on your podcast feed of choice? Or if you prefer to consume your podcast in a visual format, you can head on over to YouTube and search for our Winners U podcast, where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If the podcast isn't enough for you, the best place to get us these days is probably over in BlueSky, at Thrillix for Alex, at Super Smiley for me, and at Winner Is You Pod for us. If you're one of the youngins, we also have TikTok, so head there and search for Winner Is You Pod if you like. Alex, any housekeeping?
Go to my computer is so fucking shit. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do this. I've had to try and just force my way through anger to not just get so pissed off at how shit this 230 quid laptop has been for this podcast. Go to, well, just Google, do a Google search for Kickstarter Sega Mania issue 9 and go and pledge to that, please. Where are we now? We are at £2,142 out of our £2,500 goal. There's 52 days left to go, so plenty of time to go back that. It's going to have some fucking cool Saturn stuff in there for this issue. Looking forward to that one. I'm going to do some Panzer Dragoon stuff myself, so I'm very excited to put that out there. But keep magazines alive, please.
Keep them alive. And on that bombshell, I've been David, he has been Alex, and we have been our Winners U, and I'm out.
Keep gaming, even if you are disappointed.